Damn, what happened? The two slaps from Sume were extremely clear. Not only did it completely confuse the dragon and tiger brothers, she even stunned the observing crowd. Wasn't Sume trying to catch that Chu Feng? Weren't the brothers trying to help? Sume, what is this situation? And why did Sume hit the brothers? She even looked like she cared about Chu Feng, and it completely scrambled everyone's minds. What are you looking at? What's there to look? If you keep on looking, I'll scoop your eyes out. Just at that time, Sume suddenly turned around. The cuteness from her beautiful face was no longer there, and her pair of eyes shot two cold rays out, completely scaring the crowd back. Oi, are you fine? After terrifying the crowd, Sume walked towards Chu Feng. I'm fine, this is nothing. Chu Feng stood up and used his fingers to wipe away the blood on his lips. A small bite wound also appeared. You bastard. At that instant, Sume suddenly understood. He wasn't spitting blood from the attacks, it was just him acting for his own entertainment. And that acting was so real that it even tricked her. At that time, at that instant, Sume really wanted to jump over and scratch Chu Feng's face until it was full of flowers, but she still wanted to rope him in, so she endured. She turned around, looked at the brothers, then said, "Follow me." After that, she quickly walked out of the surrounding crowd. HMPH. That moment, the dragon and tiger brothers were full of anger. However you say it, they were still famous people in the inner court, and after Sume's slap in front of the crowd, their faces were non-existent. But because of Sume's status, they didn't dare to do anything to Sume. Their strength was far from her as well. So, at the end, they could only coldly snort and obediently follow. After arriving at an empty place where there were no people, Sume sighed and said with an apologetic face, "Sorry for just now, it's just that Chu Feng has his special areas. I also just found out about it, so we can't offend him." Sume wanted to tell the brothers that Chu Feng had the spirit power, and he very likely had cultivated in the mysterious techniques. But after considering that those were Chu Feng's secrets, she did not say the completely truth. Hearing Sume's words, the brothers deeply thought at the same time. Where did that Chu Feng excel to gain Sume's good impression? And after Sume and the two brothers left, Chu Feng was very bored. So he tidied up his clothes and left the crowd. He did not want to attract any unneeded troubles. Chu Wei, that was. Just at that time, 10 people walked out from the crowd. It was Chu Wei, Chu Zhen, and the others. 2 of their bags were full, and it could be said that they had a great harvest, but those were only low-quality spiritual medicine. They also saw the scene that just happened, and at that moment they were very astonished. It seemed that Chu Feng being invited by the Wings Alliance was not only a coincidence, and there was indeed an unexplainable relationship. You've also heard that in this year's Inner Court Disciple exam, there was a fierce person that killed 40 fierce beasts by themselves, right? After some thought, Chu Wei opened his mouth. Of course, we've heard of it. That guy was really strong, and he's a character that is heatedly discussed in the inner court. But he hid himself too well, so no one knows who he is. There were no ends of praise as everyone mentioned that person. Then if the Wings Alliance was choosing a new member within the new disciples, who do you think would become their target of invitation? Chu Wei asked. Of course it would be that fierce person. The crowd had the same thoughts. Chu Wei, do you mean? Suddenly, a person reacted to it. After all, until today, the only new disciple that the Wings Alliance invited was Chu Feng. But to connect the Chu Feng and their impressions to that idol-like fierce person was almost impossible to them. So that was why there was a person that rejected that. Impossible. How could Chu Feng be that fierce person? Do you truly understand Chu Feng? Ever since entering the Azure Dragon School, you've only teased Chu Feng because he couldn't enter the inner court. Who would know his true strength? With Chu Wei words, everyone was mute and could not say anything, because his words were the truth. Ever since when they were small, they looked down on Chu Feng and felt that he was not part of the Chu family. Yet, he hung the title of being part of the Chu family, and they saw him as shameless. Other than humiliating Chu Feng and degrading him, no one truly knew him. I agree with Chu Wei's words. Just at that time, the silent Chu Jin finally spoke. We all underestimated Chu Feng, and because of that my brother Chu Chung paid the price. I hope that you guys don't offend Chu Feng anymore or else you will certainly regret it. After saying that, Chu Jin left first. Chu Wei and the others also sank into deep thought because they also knew the reason why Chu Chung did not participate in the spiritual medicine hunt. After some hurrying on the road, Chu Feng finally walked out of the spiritual medicine mountain and arrived at the plaza at the entrance. At that moment, there were already large amounts of inner court disciples gathered there. A lot of people's harvest were not bad, and the plaza was very lively as people talked about the interesting things that happened in the spiritual medicine mountain. Chu Feng. A familiar voice came, and Chu Iwei's ground was looking at him from nearby. Chu Iwei's group had 11 people, and other than Chu Iwei and 2 other Chu family members, the rest were the people that joined into the Chu alliance at a later time. Those people were very polite to Chu Feng, so Chu Feng's impression on them were not bad. Since he saw them naturally, he would go over and greet them. "Oh, Chu Feng's harvest is not bad. You actually got 2 full bags." "Yeah, it's quite impressive that one person got more than all of us. We didn't know which ones were spiritual medicine, so for face we have some weeds here, haha." But just as Chu Feng got closer, the 2 other Chu family members were speaking sarcastically at Chu Feng's bag. They did not believe that Chu Feng was able to gather more than the 11 of them by himself. Seeing that, Chu Iwei wanted to scold, but not even letting her speak, Chu Feng said first, "Chu Iwei, you will almost break through to the 5th level of the spirit realm, right? Take these as a younger brother's respect." As Chu Feng said that, he put his hand into his bag, and when his hand came out, a bunch of spiritual medicine came out as well, and he stuffed all of them onto Chu Iwei's arms. "Chu Iwei, I have things to do, so I'll leave first." Chu Iwei was stunned by Chu Feng's sudden movements. When she came back to her senses, Chu Feng already walked far. She could only see that the people around her were surprisingly staring at her arms, and their eyes were filled with admiration. She looked down, and instantly Chu Iwei was stupefied. Within her arms there were 13 red spiritual medicines. Those were not the low-quality ground spirit grass. They were the medium-quality sky spirit grasses. No one could stay calm as they thought about Chu Feng's bags that were possibly full of these sky spirit grasses. Of course, if they knew that in Chu Feng's other bag was full of saint spirit grasses, many people would even have thoughts of dying. "Chu Iwei, it seems that your harvest is not bad." Chu Wei's sound came, and his group also slowly came over as well. You guys went and hunted sky spirit grasses, and you even got so many." When Chu Wei and the others came and saw the sky spirit grasses in Chu Iwei's arms, they were completely shocked. The price of 1 sky spirit grass was equivalent to 20 ground spirit grasses. So the 13 sky spirit grasses in Chu Iwei's arms were already more precious than everything Chu Wei and the others had. "No, these weren't hunted by us. They were given to me by Chu Feng." As Chu Iwei said that, she stuffed the 13 sky spirit grasses into her waist purse. When she did that movement, almost everyone drooled from admiration. Especially the 2 people that humiliated Chu Feng before. They even had the heart to die from tofu collision. TN, not meant to be literally translated, but it sounds funny. It was because their provocation to Chu Feng just now were like beggars with 2 copper coins boasting their wealth to a rich person with thousands of coins on their waist. It was extremely laughable. "Chu Iwei, you're saying that these were given to you by Chu Feng. Is it possible that?" Chu Wei and the others lost all color from their faces as they suddenly remembered Chu Feng's bags that were extremely full. "Chu Wei, Chu Iwei, something happened, Chu Feng." At that time, Chu Shwei and the others quickly ran over, and her face was extremely ugly. "Chu Shwei, what happened? Did Chu Feng bully you?" as they saw Chu Shui's appearance that seemed like she lost her soul, and also Chu Gao's injuries on his leg. Everyone from the Chu alliance surrounded them, and they even thought that it was Chu Feng who bullied Chu Shui and the others. And when Chu Shui described the events that happened, everyone went silent. According to what Chu Shui said, to save her, Chu Feng was surrounded and attacked by 3 level 5 spirit realm experts. He should have been in danger, and even if he did not die, he would have been crippled. But they saw Chu Feng just now. Not only was he not even scratched, he was full of liveliness. How did that even look like a person that was injured? And what did that mean? It meant that Chu Feng could not lose against 3 experts of the level 5 spirit realm. Or he could at least retreat, with everything intact. How did Chu Feng have that kind of strength? They didn't even want to continue thinking about it because, as they did, they got more afraid. Chu Iwei, you said that Chu Feng is fine. Chu Shui asked with a full face of emotions, and at the same time she felt that it was inconceivable. Chu Feng is fine. We just saw him. Chu Iwei nodded and said, "That's great, Chu Feng is fine, that is really great." Sob. Her extreme happiness instantly turned into sorrow, and Chu Shui threw herself into Chu Iwei's arms, cried while saying, "Chu Iwei, I was wrong, we were wrong. Only you were right. Chu Feng isn't our enemy, he is the bravest one in our Chu family. If it wasn't for Chu Feng, then I would have." Sob. Facing that scene, Chu Iwei felt even more gratified, as it seemed that Chu Shui really looked at Chu Feng in a different way. It seems that we've really looked at Chu Feng wrongly. Chu Wei sighed, and there was a bit of shame on his face. Knowing Chu Shui's experience, everyone looked at Chu Feng at a different way. And when all the disciples left the spiritual medicine mountain, a group formed by elders can be the middle circle of the spiritual medicine mountain. At that moment, Su Ro, the master of the martial skill building, and various elders gathered there. They were looking at the nearby corpses of the 3 disciples while frowning. But with their position, they could only look and did not have the right to speak, because next to those corpses, a person wearing a white robe was carefully observing. That person was very significant in the Azure Dragon School, and even core elders had to be careful around him. That person's white robe was very special, as it was full of strange marks and special patterns. The white robe was very large as well. Not only did it conceal the person's clothing, it even concealed his face and tightly covered the entire person. After all these years, he has reappeared at last. Finally, an aged voice came from the white robe. "Elders Huge, you're saying it's the 1,000-bone graveyard?" Su Ro went up and asked, "What else could it be other than the 1,000-bone graveyard? You inner court elders really neglect your duties too much. You only report in after the 1,000-bone graveyard appears. Do you know that you all delayed a lot of things? Simply a bunch of rice buckets. All of you are garbage. Why do I even need you?" After Su Ro's question came the white robe old man's angry scolding. Everyone could feel the anger of that person. HMPH. After that scolding, the elder waved his big sleeve and disappeared without even leaving a single trace of him. After he left, everyone relaxed and deeply exhaled. In front of that person, they really did not even dare to breathe deeply, and no one dared to go up and ask a question like how Su Ro did. This old guy, is he not a bit too excessive? This 1,000-bone graveyard was already like an illusion, and even the spells that he set up could not detect it. How should we know when it would appear? Su Ro said while fuming, "Be a bit quieter. It was really too hard for our Azure Dragon School to get this person. Not only us, even the sect head had to be extremely respectful. We really can't offend this person." Aoyang went up and dissuaded Su Ro, and he was afraid that she would offend that white robe old man. HMPH, I see that he only ungenuinely joined the Azure Dragon School. Searching for the treasures of the 1,000-bone graveyard would be his real goal. Su Ro coldly snorted and did not accept that. It said that the 1,000-bone graveyard contained treasures, but those were only rumors. Today, anyone who enters would die, so it could not be confirmed whether it's the truth or lie. The Thousand Bone Graveyard is already seen as a danger spot, and everyone's feelings are anxious about that. If Zhuge can break this Thousand Bone Graveyard, then so what if the treasures are given to him? Just afraid that he isn't up for it. Su Rou curled her lips. Girl, speak one less sentence. Aoyang was obviously helpless while facing the stubborn Su Rou. That's right, did the Wings Alliance invite that boy? Ah, that boy really makes my head hurt. I heard Su Mei say that he refused the invitation. Su Rou sighed as they mentioned Chu Feng. Oh, Aoyang got distracted for a bit but then smiled and said, "This boy is quite interesting." Chu Feng returned to his residence, and the first thing he did was to take a bath comfortably. But just as he took off his clothes and before even entering the path, Chu Feng's face changed greatly. This is. Looking at his own chest, Chu Feng's gaze flickered and his face was extremely ugly, because on his chest a strange pattern appeared. The reason why it was strange was because those patterns were created from countless symbols. Every symbol were as if they were alive. They were moving around in Chu Feng's skin, and it was extremely horrifying. Chu Feng used his hand and powerfully rubbed his chest a few times and tried to wipe away the strange patterns. But no matter what, those symbols were like living under his skin, and he had no way of getting rid of them. Seeing those dense symbols that were swimming back and forth in his own skin, Chu Feng was incomparably depressed, yet he could do nothing. It seems like I haven't gotten rid of the curse from the Thousand Bone Graveyard. Suddenly, Chu Feng smiled in relief. He knew that this was the souvenir that the Thousand Bone Graveyard left him. No matter if that thing was good or bad, the current him was helpless either way, so he could only leave it up to fate. Since he could not do anything about it, Chu Feng didn't bother thinking anymore. Might as well pretend that nothing happened. So, he jumped into the bath and enjoyed his current life. Time proceeded, and with a blink several days passed. In those few days, Chu Feng did not even take a step outside. Other than studying the third style of the three thunder styles, he was refining spiritual medicine. In a short few days, Chu Feng went from a wealthy person to a poor person with nothing. But luckily, his danshan was filled up quite a bit, and with his estimations he could break through once more after another spiritual bead. But the spiritual medicine hunt only happened once a year, and the spiritual bead was a top-quality spiritual medicine. If he didn't rely on Su Mei, how could Chu Feng have picked up such a deal? So, he also knew that wanting to break through again was not easy. Without him feeling it, the day of the Chu family gathering also arrived. On that day, three familiar people came and visited. Chu Iwei, Chu Shhui, Chu Wei. Chu Feng was a bit caught off guard when he saw the three people outside. It wasn't that strange for Chu Iwei to come visit, but he never would have thought that Chu Shhui and Chu Wei could come as well. Chu Feng, the gathering is almost here. Come with us and we can return together. Chu Iwei smiled and said, "Oh." Chu Feng looked at Chu Wei and Chu Shhui with a bit of hesitation. "Chu Feng, let's go back together. Everyone's waiting for you." Chu Shhui also spoke, and other than sincere in her eyes, there was also deep regret. "Chu Feng, we may have misunderstood some things, but in the end, we are still family. I hope that you don't put the past in your heart." Chu Wei was also chuckling, and there were some hints of admitting his errors in his tone. Chu Feng thought for a while but still said, "That's fine." Chu Feng was not a narrow-minded person, or else he wouldn't have saved Chu Shhui that day. In any case, he was also planning to return to the Chu family, so it wasn't bad to be able to chat with Chu Iwei along the road. They arrived at the gate of the Azure Dragon School, and indeed, the Chu family members were there waiting for Chu Feng. As they looked at Chu Feng, their gazes did not contain the past enmity. Rather, there was a bit more respect, and other than the respect, there was also some embarrassment and some shame. Although it was not confirmed, many people knew in their hearts that Chu Feng was likely the fierce person that slaughtered the 40 fierce beasts. he also got the recognition of the Wings Alliance, so how could they dare to offend Chu Feng when he was like this? Chu Feng didn't think too much about their change. After all, in Chu Feng's heart, he viewed himself as a member of the Chu family. To get along with his family was naturally something that he yearned for. But he also knew that it was his strength that caused their change in attitude. But why did that matter? After all, the world is as such. Even if it was family, seniors and juniors were divided by strength. In the middle area of the Azure province, there was a small town that was built against a mountain, and it was called the Leaning Mountain Town. The Chu family was the overlord of the Leaning Mountain Town, as they had control over the circumference of dozens of miles of land and resources. The imposing gates of the Chu family were in front of their eyes. Fast horses arrived, and several impressive young males and females jumped down. They were Chu Feng and the others from the Azure Dragon School. Look, the young masters from the Chu family have returned. Purple-colored robes, those are the symbols of the inner court disciples of the Azure Dragon School, right? Impressive. They are indeed from the Chu family. That's right, talent is the most important thing on the road of martial cultivation. Old Yang, the boss of the east side of the town, used up all his fortune to get his grandson into the Azure Dragon School. But after entering for a full 10 years, he was only at the first level for his martial cultivation. It is simply incomparable to the Chu family's young masters. That may not be so. I hear that there's a person called Chu Feng in the Chu family, and even today, he's still an outer court disciple. Because he had no face to see anyone, he didn't return home in many years. Then, you don't know the full story. Although that Chu Feng has the status of a young master, he is not technically part of the Chu family. He was picked up by Chu Yuan, so it's normal even if his talent isn't equal to the other young masters. SHH, you can't randomly talk about that, or else you'll have bad luck if you let Chu Yuan hear that. The arrival of Chu Feng and the others attracted countless observers from the town's citizens. To them who had nothing to do with martial cultivation, anyone who cultivated were their idol. Young masters, you've returned. After entering the courtyard, the servants of the Chu family all surrounded them, and at the same time, it attracted many of the Chu family's younger generations. There were a lot of young people in the Chu family, but they all entered all different types of schools. So, when they knew that the people from the Azure Dragon School returned, all the other people from the other schools wanted to see what point Chu Wei, Chu Iwei, and the others reached. Oh, isn't this Chu Feng? You finally entered the inner court for the Azure Dragon School. A sharp, unkind voice could be heard, and several young males and females walked over. The leading person was a handsome young man. He was called Chu Zun, and he was the disciple of the second-rate Thousand Wind School. He was 18 years old this year, and he had the cultivation of the 5th level of the spirit realm. Same as most of the Chu family members, he had also been hostile towards Chu Feng since he was small. If I remember correctly, you also entered the Thousand Wind School, inner court at the age of 15, right? Chu Feng lightly smiled and said, HMPH, you are correct, but after entering the inner court for a short 3 years, I reached the 5th level of the spirit realm. Do you think you can even compare to me? He entered the Thousand Wind School at the age of 10, but only stepped into the 5th level of the spirit realm at the age of 18. Such slow improvement, yet displaying such arrogance. Can't you be any better? You're looking down on me. Do you want to spar a bit? Chu Zun's face was very ugly, and he was really impatient to give Chu Feng a lesson. You aren't even fit to spar with me. Chu Feng shot him a glance of disdain and walked deeper into the Chu residence. Damn, who gave him that confidence and dared to be so arrogant? He better not participate in the family's competition, or else I would beat him to death. Looking at Chu Feng's back, Chu Zun gritted his teeth in anger. Chu Zun, I advise that you don't go and anger Chu Feng. Just at that time, the brothers Chu Cheng and Chu Zhen walked over. What is your meaning? You think that I can't beat him? Chu Zun got even more angry, seeing that he was so stubborn. Chu Cheng and Chu Zhen were too lazy to pay attention to him, and they went towards their own residence. 2 pieces of garbage. How did they become so spiritless after 1 year? Chu Zun glared at the two with disdain. The two of them are very correct. As your elder brother, I will also give you a few words of advice. That Chu Feng isn't as weak as you think. I won't say the specifics, so understand it as you wish. Chu Wei also went up and patted Chu Zun's shoulders. After that, Chu Iwei, Chu Shwei, Chu Gao and the others also said some words with Chu Zun. Although it was very hidden, there were strong warning messages. These people, have they gone stupid in the Azure Dragon School? No need to speak about Chu Iwei, but why are Chu Wei and the others so cowardly? Looking at the leaving backs of Chu Wei and the others, Chu Zun was a bit lost. That's right. Didn't Chu Wei and the Cheng Zhen brothers annoy Chu Feng the most, and also that Chu Shwei? What happened to them? At the same time, the people behind Chu Zun had confusion on their faces. They could not understand. Chu Wei and the others were always humiliating Chu Feng without restraint. Last year, they left nothing behind and declared Chu Feng's ugly things in the Azure Dragon School. Why did it seem that all of them completely changed? In a certain residence hall in the Chu family, a middle-aged male and a young man were sitting. The young man wore a white robe. He had a handsome face, and his entire body was emitting a special aura. That person was Chu Feng's elder brother. He was an inner court disciple in the one school in the Azure province, the Lingyun School Chu Guyu. As for that middle-aged male, he was Chu Gaius and Chu Feng's father, Chu Yuan. Asterisk creek tilde asterisk as the two of them were chatting, that tightly closed door was slowing being opened. Who said that you could enter without knocking? Leave. As he was talking happily with his son, there dared to be a person that intruded without permission. Chu Yuan angrily slammed the table and yelled. But when the door completely opened and a thin, weak silhouette entered, and Chu Yuan's angry expression was instantly frozen. Hey, father, brother. Chu Feng scratched a bit and entered the hall while chuckling. These two people were the closest people to him. It's you, brother. After seeing Chu Feng, Chu Guyu was extremely happy. With a few steps he arrived in front of Chu Feng and hugged him. Brother, you're finally back. I've missed you so much. I've also missed you, brother. Chu Feng also hugged Chu Guyu strongly. I haven't seen you in 5 years. You've grown tall and more handsome. I almost didn't recognize you. Chu Guyu carefully assessed Chu Feng and his eyes were filled with joy. But I am still not as tall as you, Chu Feng said while laughing. You are only so old. In a few more years you will certainly be taller than me. Chu Guyu lovingly rubbed Chu Feng's head. Why did you even greet me when you came back? Chu Yuan also walked over, and an unconcealable happiness was hung on his face. Although the Chu family members didn't view Chu Feng as part of the Chu family, in Chu Yuan's heart Chu Feng was his son, and he was no different from Chu Guyu. Seeing Chu Feng's purple robe, Chu Yuan asked again, "You've entered the inner court?" Chu Feng smiled as he nodded. "Good. I was saying that my son Chu Feng wasn't that bad." Chu Yuan loudly laughed, and his laughter was unusually happy. The three of them haven't seen themselves in 5 years, and they had an endless amount of things to say. They chatted for a good half-day and didn't even eat lunch. "Mr. Chu Yuan, the master has asked for you and for young Master Guyu to go over." When it was afternoon, there was a call from outside of the residence. That voice came from Chief Zhao, an outstanding minister for the Chu family. Although he was not part of the Chu family, his position was very high. So at that moment, Chu Feng, his brother and his father walked out of the residence. "Chief Zhao, do you know why he has asked for us to go there?" Chu Yuan asked politely. "It's about the family gathering. All the members of the Chu family have went there." Chief Zhao, who had white hair, smiled and said that, "I see. Guyu Fenger, let's go." Chu Yuan looked at Chu Guyu and Chu Feng, then prepared to walk towards the Chu family's conference hall. Tn. Can means son, but but when it is added behind a name, it doesn't mean too much other than a sign of a close relationship and as a filler character. Sounds a bit better when you have Fenger compared to just Feng. Mr. Chu Yuan, the master, only told you and young Master Guyu to go. Just as they were going to move, they were stopped by Zhao. What is this? Hearing that, Chu Guyu got very angry. Sigh. Chief Zhao was quite calm, and he faintly smiled as he said, "This is the meaning of the master. I am just spreading the word." At that instant, not only Chu Guyu but Chu Yuan's face was very ugly as well. They said it was a family meeting, but they didn't call Chu Feng. The meaning was very clear. Father, brother, you two go quickly. Don't make grandfather unhappy. Just at that time, Chu Feng spoke while smiling. His smile was very calm and his emotions were not even affected in the slightest. After being in the Chu family for so many years, he was already used to things like that. And seeing Chu Feng like that, Chu Yuan's heart felt like it was being twisted by a knife. He also felt that he wasn't a qualified father, and he said while patting Chu Feng's shoulder, "Fenger, I will guarantee that the next family meeting will include you." After saying that, Chu Yuan went towards the conference hall with Chu Guyu, 9th level spirit realm. Chu Feng was overjoyed. He poured a thread of aura into Chu Yuan's body just now, and what he felt was the aura of the 9th level. Chu Feng knew what that meant. In the entire Chu family, except for the old generation, there was no one that reached the 9th level of the spirit realm. So, it was the biggest hand that Chu Yuan had as a candidate. 9th level spirit realm. With only one more step, one could enter the origin realm. In the origin realm, you no longer used spiritual energy. You used the origin power. It was a power that was far above spiritual energy, a realm that completely exceeded the spirit realm. The current master of the Chu family, Chu Yuan, was only one who was at the first level of the origin realm. Chu Yuan was able to reach the 9th level of the spirit realm at this age. The distance to the origin stage was only the width of a string, so Chu Feng was truly happy and excited for him. "Mr. Chu Yuan, something happened." Just at that time, an aged voice echoed, and a large person ran in with a face of panic. "Uncle Zhang, what happened?" Chu Feng recognized that person. He was one of the servants for the Chu family. Are you young Master Chu Feng?" Looking at Chu Feng, Zhang revealed a different face. When Chu Feng left the Chu family, he was only a child that was 10 years old. There was a huge change with 5 years, but Zhang still vaguely recognized Chu Feng. "That's me." Chu Feng smiled and nodded. "Young Master Chu Feng." Fierce beasts appeared in the ore mine behind the mountain. Zhang said in panic, "Fierce beasts." Chu Feng's heart tightened and he ran with flying speed to the back mountain. Without even thinking, the ore mine behind the Chu family's mountain was a very important source of income for the Chu family. But the miners in the ore mine were mostly ordinary citizens. Even if there were people that knew a bit of martial arts, their power was very low. Fierce beasts. Chu Feng had saw them before. Even if it was the weakest rank one fierce beast, those miners could not take care of them. Chu Feng didn't even want to think what would happen if the miners met the fierce beasts. But just after Chu Feng left, the corners of Zhang curled up into a smile as his conspiracy prevailed. "Uncle Zhang, thanks for your work." Before Chu Feng left for long, Chu Zun walked over and gave Zhang some silvers. He just doing what I should." Zhang took the silvers and said, "Young Master Chu Zun, the fierce beasts were always in deep parts, behind the mountain. How did you get them near the mines?" "That's a secret." "Young Master Chu Zun, that's really a good method, but those fierce beasts seem to gather more and more, and they were more and more terrifying as they came. I think that we should quickly go over." Zhang's hair stood up straight as he thought about the fierce beasts that he saw near the mines. What is there to be afraid of? The strongest ones would not pass rank 3, and Chu Feng did train in the Azure Dragon School for 5 years. If he can't even take care of a few fierce beasts, then he's better off dead. Chu Zun coldly snorted. The reason why he did all that work was to make Chu Feng suffer a bit how could he go and save him. But, young Master Chu Zun, if something really happens to Chu Feng and if Mr. Chu Yuan investigates it, then I'm afraid that it won't be too good. Zhang was still a bit worried. Fine, we'll go and take a look. After some thought, Chu Zun felt that Zhang was not incorrect. If Chu Feng died, then he died. But if Chu Yuan found out that Chu Feng's death was related to him, then that would not be good. As Chu Zun and Zhang entered the back mountain, and before even arriving at the mines, they discovered that Chu Feng was surrounded by a huge group of miners, and they were walking towards the two. The miners were even carrying some huge monsters. With a closer look, they were fierce beasts. Young Master Chu Zun, you've come as well. Ah, those fierce beasts were too scary. But luckily, young Master Chu Feng arrived just in time, or else I really wouldn't even dare to imagine the ending. Seeing Chu Zun, several miners ran over with lingering fear on their faces. Oh! Only in that instant did Chu Zun find out that there were a total of 9 fierce beasts. 5 rank 1s, 3 rank 2s, and 1 rank 3. Those fierce beasts were nothing to him, but he felt that Chu Feng shouldn't have been able to deal with them. Was it possible that Chu Feng already reached the 4th level of the spirit realm? But even if Chu Feng had the strength of the 4th level, it wasn't possible to finish off so many fierce beasts at such a short period of time, right? Chu Zun, thanks. As Chu Zun was in a state of confusion, Chu Feng smiled to him, and within the smile there was actually few bits of gratitude. At that instant, Chu Zun was thoroughly stupefied. Hiddenly, there was an uneasy feeling that spread across his heart, and without even thinking, he quickly ran over towards the ore mine. Young Master Chu Feng, you killed all of these. Zhang saw the fierce beasts that did not breathe and felt that it was unbelievable. He clearly heard that Chu Feng was a piece of garbage that stayed in the 2nd level for many years. Even if he entered the inner court of the Azure Dragon School, at most he would be at the 3rd level. How could he kill so many fierce beasts with such a fast speed? So what? Chu Feng put away his smile and looked at Zhang. Not only did he not have the previous gentleness, there were even some cold intents. No, nothing, just randomly asking. Being stared by Chu Feng like that, Zhang backed off a few steps in fear, and cold sweat came out from his forehead. Uncle Zhang, you've been in the Chu family for so long. Why are you getting more muddled as you get older? Remember, as a servant, the things that you should ask, you should. The things that you shouldn't ask, you shouldn't. The things that you should do, you should. The things that you shouldn't do, it is better not to do. There were meanings within meanings behind Chu Feng's words, and Zhang had a pale face from fear. He could not say anything in that instant, and his body was uncontrollably trembling. Chu Feng coldly smiled as he saw him like that. That proved that his guess in his heart was correct. Young Master Chu Feng, what should we do with these fierce beasts? Do we take them back to the Chu residence? Dozens of miners surrounded him. No need to trouble the people in the residence with merely a few fierce beasts. Just bring them back home and eat them. Chu Feng waved his hand as if it didn't matter, then walked towards the Chu residence. Thank you, young Master Chu Feng. The miners were bursting with happiness. Fierce beasts were strange monsters that could cultivate. Although their outer shell was as strong as steel, their meat was very delicious. It was said that after eating, not only would it strengthen one's body, it would even make their lives longer. Everything was a treasure from top to bottom, and it was an object of considerable cost. But Chu Feng gave such precious fierce beasts to them. How could they not be happy? And when they saw Chu Feng barehandedly kill all the fierce beasts in an instant with their own eyes, the miners respected Chu Feng even more. Near the mines, Chu Zun arrived at the place where he found the fierce beasts at first. After seeing that no one was around, he walked up to a huge tree and leaped up. When he fell back down, there was an extra wooden box in his hands that was full of small holes. Teacher was indeed correct. This thing can attract fierce beasts, but they cannot find this box. This is really a good thing to bait fierce beasts, but to be able to attract the fierce beasts within the deep mountains. Other than a spiritual bead, normal spiritual medicine really cannot do the trick. As he said that, Chu Zun opened up the wooden box. But when he opened it up, the color of his face instantly changed greatly. He discovered with shock that the wooden box that originally contained the spiritual bead was empty. How did this happen? Where's the spiritual bead? Chu Zun fell on the ground with a poof, and his face was completely pale without color. Although the wooden box was passed down by his teacher, the spiritual bead was bought by his father with an extremely high price. His father was prepared to use it to break into the 9th level of the spirit realm. If he let his father know that the spiritual bead was lost because of him, his father would undoubtedly strip his skin right off. Was it? Suddenly, Chu Zun remembered the scene in which Chu Feng thanked him, and he suddenly understood something. As he held onto the wooden box, he grinded his teeth and said, "Chu Feng, I'm not done with you." At the same time, Chu Feng already returned to his own room. He closed the door and took out a bead that had spiritual energy lingering around it from his pocket as he had an evil smile on his face. "Chu Zun, thank you very much. After walking in such a huge circle, after wasting so much effort, you did all that just to give me this treasure and to help me break into the 6th level. You are quite generous as an elder brother." Chu Zun would never have thought that Chu Feng had the spirit power. Although the wooden box would confuse the smelling sense of the fierce beasts, it could not confuse Chu Feng's spirit power. The moment that Chu Feng arrived, he immediately discovered that wooden box which contained the spiritual bead, and he determined that it was a trap created by humans. While he was going back down the mountain and seeing Chu Zun and Zhang's surprised expression, Chu Feng was even more sure that those two worked together and wanted to harm him. But they never would have thought that they weren't able to harm, and rather they suffered themselves. Gulp after entering the stomach, the spiritual bead instantly became huge spiritual energies. But before the huge spiritual energy even got the chance to spread, it was sucked by the Danshan. At that instant, Chu Feng could faintly hear the chewing sounds that were like a hungry wolf from his Danshan. When that sound disappeared, huge change happened in his Danshan. The 9 lightning beasts growled and transformed once again. When everything returned to normal, spiritual energy that was several times stronger than before surged out from his Danshan, and it filled every part of Chu Feng's body. 6th level spirit realm. Chu Feng opened his eyes and a happy smile was on his face. A person that entered the 6th level of the spirit realm at the age of 15 would already be considered to be a genius. A person that went from the 2nd level to the 6th level under 2 months could only be described with one word. Time flew, and with a blink, the day of the Chu family's gathering arrived. This so-called gathering was not simply a conference within the Chu family. It was also a display of the Chu family's strength to the outside. It was overcrowded in the Leaning Mountain town's martial arts training ground. Not only did it attract the town's rich to come and watch, it also attracted many nearby powers. Within these outside powers, some came with invitations, some came because of admiration, but their goals were all the same, and it was to see the current strength of the Chu family. So when the main members of the Chu family appeared, the liveliness instantly rose to the boiling point. "Look, it's the master of the Chu family, Chu Yuanba." The person that everyone's gaze first landed on was the old man who was leading. Although he was quite old, his back was like a tiger and his waist like a bear. As he walked, wind rose, and under those snow-white sword-like eyebrows there was an imposing wave hiddenly emitting from it, and it made people somewhat fearful. That person was the grandfather of Chu Feng and the others, master of the Chu family, Chu Yuanba, the only person in the Chu family that stepped into the origin realm. Behind Chu Yuanba are the 6 sons of the Chu family, right? All of them really do have out of the ordinary imposing and impressive presence. I wonder who the new master of the family will be. What's the rush? I hear that in today's Chu family gathering, he will officially announce his retirement, and the new master will also be selected. which means it's going to be quite interesting today. As they thought of the most important part of today's Chu family gathering, everyone was already unable to endure their excitement. This place is quite lively. But just as the Chu family members entered the martial arts training ground, another group of people walked in majestically. It's the Zhu family from the Pear Tree Town. Aren't the Zhu family and the Chu family on bad terms? How do they still dare to come here at this time? Many people knew where the group of people came from. It was the biggest hostile fraction of the Chu family, the Zhu family. The Zhu family was the overlord of the nearby town, and because of the fighting over natural resources, there were no small amounts of conflicts between them and the Chu family. A lot of people felt that sooner or later, there was going to be a big battle between the Chu family and the Zhu family. Just at this time, the Zhu family brought so many people and appeared, so the first thought of countless people was that the Zhu family arrived to look for trouble. Zhu Qiang, today is my Chu family's gathering. What are you here for? Seeing that, the eldest of the 6 Chu family sons, Chu Wei's father, Chu Reni, brought a group of people and faced them. Chu Reni, why are you so tense? We're just here to make things more lively. The male called Zhu Qiang looked at Chu Reni with disdain, and in that gaze, it didn't even put Chu Reni in his eyes. Zhu Qiang was also the eldest out of the Zhu family sons, but he was different from Chu Reni. He was already set to be the future master of the Zhu family, and he was even an expert of the 9th level of the spirit realm. So in his eyes, Chu Reni was not even equal to him. The only person who was suited to talk to him was the current master, Chu Yuanba. Zhu Qiang, our Chu family gathering does not welcome the Zhu family. Just at that time, Chu Yuan also walked over. What, there's no one left in the Chu family? You think it's your turn to talk to me? Zhu Qiang's face changed, and the pressure of the 9th level of the spirit realm engulfed without restraint towards Chu Reni and the others. Chu Reni frowned at that instant. The him that was only at the 8th level was not able to withstand that pressure. But during that hard time, Chu Yuan stepped forward and coldly said, I, Chu Yuan, am enough against people like you. At the same time that his voice rang out, Chu Yuan's strong pressure shot out from his body. That pressure not only canceled Zhu Qiang's pressure, it even forced its way into the Zhu family. That change happened too fast, and Zhu Qiang didn't even have time to react. The crowd behind him were pushed back by Chu Yuan's pressure, and only Zhu Qiang was able to resist. 9th level of the spirit realm. Zhu Qiang had a face of shock. No matter what, he never would have thought that Chu Yuan also reached the 9th level of the spirit realm, and that pressure was only stronger than his, not weaker. 9th level of the spirit realm. The 5th of the Chu family, Chu Yuan, is at the 9th level of the spirit realm. Impressive. At that age, he already reached the 9th level of the spirit realm. It seems that the position of the master of the family will belong to none other than him. Feeling Chu Yuan's pressure, cries of surprise sounded outside of the martial arts training ground. Even the face of Chu Yuanba, who was sitting, changed slightly, and surprised happiness surged into his eyes. 5th bro, when did you break through? Chu Reni asked emotionally. Big bro, I only broke through a few days ago. Chu Yuan lightly smiled and replied. Chu Yuan was always respectful towards this elder brother. That's good, breaking through is good. It seems the spot of the master will truly belong to none other than you. Chu Reni smiled and patted Chu Yuan's shoulders as he was truly happy for Chu Yuan. Normally, the eldest would be the person to sit in the position of the master of the family, but he didn't care about that. He only cared about the strength of the Chu family. Big bro, it seems that those words are said a bit too early. Suddenly, another level 9 spirit realm pressure came from Chu Reni's back. Turning their heads and looking, Chu Reni and Chu Yuan's face couldn't help but change. Behind them, a white-faced middle-aged male was slowly walking over. That person was the 6th son of the Chu family, and also Chu Hanfei's father, Chu Nanshan. 6th bro, you've also stepped into the 9th level. Chu Rennie's already happy face got even more happier. Big bro, it's just the 9th level of the spirit realm, so no need to get too emotional. My goal is the origin realm. Chu Nanshan calmly smiled, and proudness was emitted from his entire body. So the 6th son of the Chu family is also in the 9th level. It seems that the position of the master is undecided. It seems that today we'll get to see some good shows. The ones that were there for the liveliness yelled, but the faces of the nearby powers were very ugly. They were extremely clear what it meant with the sudden appearance of 2 experts in the 9th level of the spirit realm. Even that arrogant and rude Zhu Qiang was also frowning, and the corner of his mouth twitched. It was not a good thing for his Zhu family. The ones that arrive are guests. Rennie let the Zhu family hear and sit. Just at that time, a sound that was clear as thunder rang, and it was Chu Yuanba who spoke. At that moment, Chu Yuanba was full of smiles. Chu Yuan and Chu Nanshan were his 2 youngest sons, and if they entered the 9th level of the spirit realm at that age, then entering the origin realm was only a matter of time, which also meant that his Chu family had qualified successors, so how could he not be happy? Because he was that happy, he didn't care what Zhu Qiang and the others came here for, and even invited them to sit. Everyone from the Zhu family this way. Hearing his father's words, Chu Rennie didn't say anymore and brought the Zhu family crowd towards the seats. Chu Yuan wanted to follow up, but just at that time Chu Nanshan went over to him and asked in a low voice, "5th bro, who do you think father will choose, you or me? Go ask him yourself." Chu Yuan shot him a glance and quickly walked over. Although they were brothers, Chu Yuan always disliked Chu Nanshan's methods of handling things. If Chu Yuan was asked who he didn't want the master to be the most, then without a doubt he would say Chu Nanshan. HMPH. Just after Chu Yuan turned around, Chu Nanshan's smile on his face instantly retracted and a cold gaze shot from his eyes. But compared to them, the 3 other Chu family candidates had frowning and worried faces. Their opportunity for the master of the family was lost already, and it really made them feel bitter. But the most depressed one was still the 4th son of the Chu family. The 4th son of the Chu family had the cultivation of the 8th level in the spirit realm. If it wasn't for his son Chu Zun, who lost the spiritual bead in which he spent a sky-high price to buy, at the current instant, he may have been at the 9th level of the spirit realm as well. Perhaps he could have been like Chu Yuan and Chu Nanshan and showed himself in front of all the guests. The more he thought, the more angry he got, and he was so angry that he was grinding his teeth, cutting his lips, and smoke was coming out of his 7 facial orifices. He hiddenly decided after the gathering he would whip his son Chu Zun a few more times, or else he would never get rid of the hatred in his heart. It's over. Father's gaze can already kill. After the gathering I need to quickly return to the 1000 Wind School, and I cannot let father catch even my shadow. In a certain corner outside of the martial arts training ground, Chu Zun was secretly observing the expression of his father. He thought about the punishment that day, and he couldn't help but touch his eyes, which were sticking out. Instantly, a fiery hot sharp pain came, and he said while grinding his teeth, "Chu Feng, I will return this debt back to you." "Sigh, isn't it Chu Zun? What happened to your face? Who turned you into a bird?" But just at that time he heard a familiar sound. As he raised his head and looked, Chu Zun's face greatly changed. From nearby, the culprit that made his father beat him up was looking at him, and on his face there was even a smile that took joy in his misfortune. "Chu Feng, I'll kill you." When the incomparably depressed Chu Zun saw Chu Feng, he was like a bomb that met fire. The fiery anger that was piled in his heart instantly exploded. He spread his pressure, which was the 5th level of the spirit realm, out, and ignoring the gazes of others, he raised his fist and rushed over to Chu Feng. With his power, he really wanted to kill Chu Feng in one punch. "Who dares to touch my brother?" But before Chu Zun even got close, he heard an angry yell in his eardrums. At the same time, a strong wind pounced towards his face and kept on blowing him back, nearly making him fall on the ground. Chu Guyu. Looking over, Chu Zun was alarmed because next to Chu Feng was a handsome young man. It was Chu Feng's elder brother Chu Guyu. In that instant, the fire that Chu Zun lit was instantly extinguished. He could not be more familiar with Chu Guyu, because he was recognized as the one person in the Chu family's younger generation, and he was not a person that he could offend. Chu Zun, listen up. I will cripple you if you dare to attack my brother anymore. Chu Guyu pointed at Chu Zun and warned. Chu Feng's heart was warmed by that scene, and it was the same as when he was young. Anytime someone bullied him, the first person that would stand out to protect him would be his elder brother Chu Guyu. Looking at him today, his elder brother just seemed even more reliable. Hey, such an imposing manner. You two brothers got a lot more arrogant in the few years that I haven't seen you. Suddenly, a sharp voice rang. Turning their heads to look, they saw several young generations of the Chu family walking over. The one who was leading was a youth that had a white and an extremely sinister face. Seeing that person, Chu Feng and Chu Gaia's faces both changed, and waves of anger were stirred up in their hearts. Although they haven't seen each other in many years, Chu Feng still recognized him with one look. He was the person that beat them down to the ground and humiliated them heavily, Chu Hongfei. Chu Hongfei, you really did come back, and I think it's time to even out some debts from that year. Chu Guyu said coldly, and anger was hiddenly flickering in his eyes. Staying in the Linean school for a few years made your temper a bit too poor. You think that you really are one in the Chu family's young generation. You think you can beat me. Chu Hongfei looked at Chu Guyu with contempt. You will know whether I am the one in the young generation in the Chu family or not. Chu Gaia's voice got colder and colder. People could even feel the chill emitting from his body as he was forcefully enduring the anger in his heart. Not bad, you have spirit. Then, how about you, Chu Feng? Chu Hongfei looked at Chu Feng. I hear that you stayed in the outer court for 5 years at that second-rate Azure Dragon School. How stupid are you to stay 5 years in that horrible place? Even if you aren't from our Chu family, you still have the name of the Chu family. Don't you feel shameless losing our Chu family's face? I'll warn you. You two better not meet me in the competition, or else I will beat you until you can't crawl back up just like 7 years ago. I will also tell you that the position of master will belong to my father Chu Nanshan, because he has an excellent son like me, Chu Hongfei. After saying that, Chu Hongfei brought the group of people over to the competition registration. Chu Guyu originally wanted to go up and say something, but he felt that someone tugged on his clothes. He looked back, and it was Chu Feng. Brother, there's no need to say too much to these kinds of people. Getting him to lie on the ground in the competition is the best way. Chu Feng said calmly. Looking at that Chu Feng, Chu Guyu couldn't help but stare blankly. There was an indescribable feeling in his heart, and he felt that his brother was different. As for the specifics, he didn't know where, but it seemed that his entire person changed into a deep and unpredictable person. After Chu Yuanba said some polite words, the young generation of the Chu family stepped into the martial arts training ground. The first competition started just like that. Taking the number that he'd drawn, Chu Feng went up onto the 5th stage. The moment he went on the stage, some humiliating voices also came along. That's Chu Feng, right? Isn't that the person who stayed as an outer court disciple for 5 years in the Azure Dragon School? He finally entered into the inner court this year. Even if he entered the inner court, he is still garbage. How dare he enter the competition? He really doesn't know how high the sky or how thick the ground is. Isn't this great, though? This will give him a good lesson and also let Chu Yuan know whether his son is garbage or not. Most of the people who knew Chu Feng were from the Chu family, and the people who dared to humiliate Chu Feng were also people that had some status in the Chu family. Not only did they want to embarrass Chu Feng, they wanted to embarrass Chu Yuan even more. Chu Feng, it's you. Just at that time, another person went onto the stage. Chu Feng was speechless as he saw the person from nearby. It was an old enemy, Chu Zhen. But compared to Chu Feng, Chu Jian's face was extremely ugly. The corner of his mouth was twitching and he cursed his bad luck on how he met Chu Feng in the first round. Chu Jian, if remember correctly, I think that this guy entered the 4th level of the spirit realm 2 days ago. It seems that Chu Feng will receive some suffering. The Chu family members that didn't know the true situation saw that Chu Jian was going against Chu Feng, and they were secretly delighted. They all felt that it was a piece of cake for Chu Jian to take care of Chu Feng. The Chu Jian brothers didn't like Chu Feng since a small age. They all believed that if Chu Jian attacked, he would not restrain himself. So they were all expecting the scene in which Chu Feng got harshly beaten up. I concede. But just at that time, the Chu Jian on the stage raised his right hand and yelled out loud. He gave up. Chu Jian, you brat, what are you saying? You didn't even start, yet you conceded. A fierce yell came from nearby, and it was Chu Jian's father. Facing his father's sharp gaze, Chu Jian's expression fluctuated, but at the end he clenched his teeth, turned around and walked down the stage. What? What is this? That scene shocked everyone. Conceded. That was something that you didn't see in the Chu family competitions often, and the one conceding was Chu Jian and his opponent was Chu Feng. How was that possible? Was Chu Jian an idiot? Were there problems with his brain? What happened? The Chu family members that did not know the truth were speechless. Although they didn't know why Chu Jian did that, his actions really surprised them quite a bit. Even Chu Yuanba was drawn towards Chu Jian's actions. He frowned, and from his aged gaze, one could tell that even he was confused. Chu Feng wins this round, but no matter what, Chu Feng really did win. Although it gave people an unfathomable feeling, Chu Feng really did become the first person to achieve victory in the competition. After the first round, Chu Feng was quickly arranged to another stage. When he clearly saw on the stage a person that he just recently beat, even Chu Feng couldn't help but smile. That person was Chu Jian's elder brother, Chu Cheng. At that moment, Chu Cheng had a pale face and green lips. He cursed in his heart. Us two brothers really have the bad luck of 8 generations. How did we meet this fiend? Although he was extremely unwilling in his heart, he suffered too much from Chu Feng, and he didn't want to exchange any blows with him. After some thought, he did an action that stupefied the Chu family. I concede. Damn, what is this situation? This time, not to mention the Chu family, even a lot of outsiders that didn't recognize Chu Feng cast their gazes towards him. Who is this young man? He actually made continuous opponents to concede. I don't know, but looking at his clothes, he should be the inner court disciple of the Azure Dragon School, but I don't think that he showed up in the past Chu family gatherings. He is not simple, absolutely not simple. Without even exchanging blows, he made the opponent scared. With this kind of deterrence, what would his future be like? Some of the observing crowd started focusing on Chu Feng, and hiddenly, they felt that Chu Feng was quite an impressive fellow. What are you even thinking about? This is the trash of the Chu family. A Chu family male that extremely loathed. Chu Feng said that unhappily. Oh, you know this young man? A big person questioned. Of course I know. I am from the Chu family, so I clearly know that this boy is useless person. Have a look. This boy must have bribed the Xianxia brothers and he is simply bluffing. I guarantee that he will lose in the next round. That Chu family male said with confidence. Ho, you must have already have some opinion on that young man, right? No offense, but you are already an adult, so why lower yourself to a child? That big person smiled and said, What? You're saying that I'm slandering him. I am saying only the truth. That Chu family male was extremely angry. Then how about this? I'll make a bet with you, if it is as you said, and that young man will lose next round. Then these silvers will belong to you. If not, you understand. That big person took out a tael of silver. Why not bet? I was just afraid that you wouldn't. Seeing that there was free money, why wouldn't that Chu family male not take it? Very quickly, he also took out a tael of silver. I concede. But just at that time, another yell came from the middle of the martial arts training ground. Focusing their gaze, the Chu family male couldn't help but be shocked. Again, it was Chu Feng's stage, and the one who conceded was Chu Gao. Damn it, this bad luck. That Chu family male was speechless, and his mind was a bit chaotic. Sorry that you lost. Seeing that, the big person helped himself and took the tail of silver from the male's hand with a smile. Looking at his tail of silver that he paid to the rivers, that Chu family male felt a wave of pain, and he said, "Do you dare to bet any more? This time I'll bet 3 taels of silvers." TN. Paying to the rivers equals throwing money away. Why not? Just afraid that you wouldn't. That big person quickly responded, "Ah, count me in as well. I bet on the victory of that young man." "Count me too. I also bet on the victory of that young man." At the same time, some meddling people around also joined in. "Come, come, come, everyone come. Who else? I'll keep you all accompanied." That Chu family male panicked, and he just straightforwardly took his entire money bag out. Inside, there were dozens of taels of silver, and he poured it all out. Following the continuous conceding of Chu Cheng, Chu Zhen, and Chu Gao, the observers were all disarrayed. Not to mention the Chu family, but even the outsiders stared at him blankly. More and more people started to try and guess who that Chu Feng was. They heard of Chu Guyu, and they heard of Chu Hongfei. After all, those two were the young geniuses that entered a first-rate school, but where did this Chu Feng come from? As the people could not guess the answer, Chu Feng was also helpless. He wanted to use the gathering to show off his moves, but he never would have thought that something like this happened. Just as Chu Feng was depressed, a beautiful person walked up to the stage. After fixing his gaze, he saw that it was Chu Shue. "Chu Feng, congratulations on your 4 continuous victories." Chu Shue smiled sweetly and said, "Chu Shue, no need to jest." Chu Feng dryly laughed, but quickly found out that something wasn't right. 4 times. It was only 3 times. "Chu Shue, you wouldn't." Chu Shue smiled mischievously while looking at Chu Feng's stupefied expression. Then she yelled to the old person off the stage, "I also concede." Who tilde. At that time, the entire martial arts training ground was completely stunned. Even some younger generations of the Chu family couldn't help but cast their gaze at Chu Feng, and their gazes were filled with shock. They were filled with questions, and they could not understand what was happening. Only those people who were from the Azure Dragon School sighed in relief and felt that they were lucky by not meeting Chu Feng, or else they would have done the exact same choices. "Haha, thank you very much. You do stick to your words. You are the best person that I've ever seen." Also at the same time, in a certain area in the observing crowd, a huge group of people were surrounding the Chu family male and took away the silvers in his hand without restraint. With a grab, it became empty. That Chu family male even wanted to cry as he looked at his empty bag. He deeply felt that he was being tricked. Why did all the Azure Dragon School disciples concede when they saw Chu Feng? There was definitely something fishy, but he couldn't think what Chu Feng gave them to make them concede so obediently. Bang ah. On another stage, Chu Iwei was falling down from the battle stage. If it wasn't for the Chu family elders who were off stage that caught her just at the right time, she would have certainly been heavily injured. Chu Iwei, there seems to be nothing great about the Azure Dragon School's martial skills. Chu Zun walked down from the stage, and a mocking smile was hung on his face. "Chu Zun, your cultivation level is higher than me. If I was also at the 5th level, then I wouldn't necessarily have lost," Chu Iwei said with a face of bitterness. "That is correct, but my cultivation is higher than you, and that also relied on my ability." Chu Zun coldly smiled and said, "You." Chu Iwei angrily grinded her teeth, and there was an unspeakable grievance in her heart. She already reached the peak of the 4th level of the spirit realm, and if the gathering was a few days later, she certainly would have broke into the 5th level of the spirit realm. But since she lost, and she didn't want to defend anything. "Chu Zun, if I'm not mistaken, Then you are 1 year older than Chu. Iwei, as an elder brother you won against the younger sister. Is that even worth being proud of? Suddenly, a voice sounded. Looking over, Chu Iwei was delighted. She saw that Chu Feng was calmly walking over under the lead of some Chu family. Seniors, Chu Feng, you are my next opponent. Seeing Chu Feng, Chu Zun was obviously very happy because the person he wanted to give a lesson to the most was Chu Feng. Scared? You can give up if you're scared. Chu Feng lightly smiled and said, "Ha, if I don't beat the crap out of you, then it just means that you took a clean dump yesterday." Chu Zun coldly snorted and leaped onto the stage. He pointed at Chu Feng and said, "Get up here." "Chu Feng, are you confident?" Chu Iwei was a bit worried because she felt that Chu Zun wanted to harm Chu Feng greatly. "Don't worry, I only need to attack once against people like him." Chu Feng faintly smiled and was going to walk towards the stage, but just at that time Chu Iwei pulled Chu Feng's hand and asked quietly, "Chu Feng, did you get first in the inner court disciple exam?" Chu Feng hesitated a bit, but seeing Chu Iwei's gaze that longed for the answer, he couldn't bear to lie to her. He could only nod his head, and after that he leaped and landed onto the stage. At that instant, Chu Iwei's expression solidified. Her pair of beautiful eyes constantly flickered, and even her heartbeat quickened a lot. Although she already had the answer in her heart, she still felt that it was inconceivable after receiving the confirmation from Chu Feng. She raised her head and looked at the Chu Zun, who was determined to win, and the corners of her mouth raised to form into a sweet smile. For some reason, she felt a touch of sympathy for Chu Zun. The chance has finally come. Seeing that Chu Feng's opponent was Chu Zun, the depression of the Chu family male was instantly swept away into the air. Replacing it was an extremely happy face. Obviously, he knew what kind of strength Chu Zun had. He was in the 5th level of the spirit realm, and he was able to be in the top 5 in the Chu family's young generation. After seeing Chu Zun's confrontation against Chu Feng, he could tell that the two of them were not on kind terms. Chu Zun would certainly not concede, so he was sure that Chu Feng would lose. "Ah, do you all dare to bet more?" That Chu family male yelled his throat out. "Of course, but do you still have money?" The people that won all the silvers from the Chu family male laughed and said, "HMPH, are you looking down on me?" The male coldly said that and took out 2 Saint Spirit grasses from his pocket. "As long as you dare, then I will play with you until the end." Seeing the Saint Spirit grasses in his hand, a lot of the surrounding ground were speechless. Saint Spirit grass was a high-quality spiritual medicine, and one of them could sell for a tael of gold. That was equivalent to 100 taels of silver. Seeing that the Chu family male took out 2 in one go, many people weren't even qualified to bet with him. But by simply looking at his bet, he was confident that he would win. That was why a lot of people envied him, but didn't dare to bet with him. It was because a lot of people couldn't afford to lose such a huge wager. "You are quite bold. I'll play with you one more time." But that big person actually took out 2 Saint Spirit grasses and showed it in front of the Chu family male's face. "Heh, nice." Seeing that, the Chu family male was extremely pleased. The pit that the big person dug was not shallow, and the chance for revenge was right in front of his eyes. "Quickly look, the show's going to start." Just at that time, someone loudly yelled out. Looking on the stage, Chu Zun already started the fierce attacks towards Chu Feng. Asterisk whoosh 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 asterisk Chu Zun arrived in front of Chu Feng and attacked with both his fists but didn't use his feet. One attack was faster than the other, and one fist came right after the other. Wind was created from the punches of his fists, and they were not ordinary attacks. It was a fierce boxing technique, a rank 2 martial skill. Chu Feng swayed left and right away from the attacks that were like the howling wind and storm. He was hiddenly surprised that Chu Zun was able to use the rank 2 skill to that proficiency. It was not injustice that Chu Iwei lost. Sadly, skills like these to him were like 100 loopholes that couldn't take even one hit. Asterisk ta asterisk. Suddenly, Chu Feng stopped his retreating steps and didn't dodge anymore. He was just silently waiting for Chu Zun's attack to come. Good chance. Seeing that, Chu Zun even thought that Chu Feng made a mistake. He clenched his fist and started to throw his punch towards Chu Feng's face. At that instant, the people who worried for Chu Feng dripped a drop of cold sweat. They were afraid that Chu Feng wouldn't be able to take that attack, because if you were a human, you could feel that Chu Zun's power in his punch was not little. As for the people who hated Chu Feng, they were rejoicing. They had been waiting for that instant for way too long, and they wanted Chu Zun to kill Chu Feng with that one punch, but of course Chu Feng was going to disappoint those people. Ha! Suddenly, Chu Feng yelled out and boundless pressure exploded out from his body. His one punch was like lightning, and it went straight towards Chu Zun's punch. Asterisk crack asterisk the two fists collided and the sound of bones breaking resonated. Ah! At the same time, Chu Zun cried out and he hugged his own right arm. He rolled down the stage and started howling in pain. 6th level, spirit realm. At that instant, be it outside or inside the training ground, everyone was shocked. Even Chu Yuanba couldn't help but widen his eyes, and surprise surged onto his face. As for Chu Feng's father Chu Yuan, he suddenly stood up and his body trembled emotionally. In the instant that Chu Feng attacked, almost everyone could feel that Chu Feng's pressure was a genuine 6th level of the spirit realm. How did this happen? Wasn't Chu Feng the trash of the Chu family? How can he have the power of the 6th level? Isn't he the same as Chu Guyu and Chu Hongfei? Within the crowds of the Chu family, voices of shock endlessly resounded. They could not possibly accept that. Chu Feng, actually, even Chu Iwei, Chu Wei, Chu Shhui, Chu Cheng, Chu Zhen, Chu Gao, and the others, the people from the Azure Dragon School, were also shocked. They knew that Chu Feng was extremely strong, as he could kill 40 fierce beasts by himself and became the fierce person that was #1 in the inner court disciple exam. But they only guessed that Chu Feng had the power of the 5th level of the spirit realm. They never would have thought that he was on the 6th level. 6th level spirit realm. In his generation, he could already be considered to be a genius. Chu Feng was only 15 that year, and being on the 6th level of the spirit realm at the age of 15 meant that he had unlimited potential. Not only did the Chu family sigh, the entire martial arts training ground yelled in surprise as they were stunned by Chu Feng's strength. A 15-year-old that was on the 6th level of the spirit realm appeared in the Chu family. It was an explosive news, and in a way, Chu Feng's strength was even more shocking than Chu Gaius and Chu Hongfei's. After all, Chu Feng was a good 2 years younger than the two of them. In the time of 2 years with Chu Feng's strength, it was not impossible for him to break through into the 7th level of the spirit realm. Genius. It's a real genius. The Chu family was hiding such a genius. It's really hard to believe it. It seems that the Chu family have a qualified successor, and the talented people appear from talented people. Their future achievements will not only be limited to this little leaning mountain town. The people from different powers admired endlessly. The future of the Chu family was showed by Chu Feng's and the others' performance, but their own family did not have such an excellent young generation, so he had that kind of strength. The Chu Guyu, who was still on the stage, was also attracted by Chu Feng's power. Unconcealable happiness surged onto his face. How is that possible? How did this happen? This is simply. But compared to the shock of other people in a certain area, a Chu family male sat on the ground limply. In that instant, he finally knew why Chu Shui, Chu Gao, Chu Cheng, and Chu Zhen would continuously concede. They did not do that randomly. It was because they already knew that Chu Feng had that absolute power. Thanks a lot. That big person walked over and took the 2 Saint Spirit grasses away, seeing that his Saint Spirit grasses were taken by someone. The Chu family male had a lifeless look in his eyes, as if he was completely disheartened. Suddenly, he moved his arms and slapped his own face 2 times, then yelled in a low voice, "Idiot!" The surrounding people could understand his movements. Although there were no poor people here, they were not extremely rich people either. Having two Saint Spirit grasses taken away was a huge blow to anyone. Understanding was understanding, but no one sympathized for him. As a senior in the Chu family, he slandered a person of the young generation from the same family. In the eyes of others, it was called reaping what he sown. Well deserved. People outside of the training grounds were yelling because of Chu Feng's strength. At that time, he already stepped onto another stage. But in that instant, Chu Feng's face was very ugly. It was because his opponent in front of his eyes was his elder brother, Chu Guyu. On the battle stage, the two brothers were looking at each other with their four eyes. Chu Feng's face was extremely ugly, while Chu Gaius had a smile. The two of them did not say anything, as if using their gazes to transmit their emotions. Chu Guyu was happy for Chu Feng, since he was able to reach the 6th level of the spirit realm at that age. It meant that his talent exceeded his own. Suddenly, Chu Gaius' mouth slightly opened, and he turned his head and started to speak towards the Chu family seniors that were off the stage. I concede. But when those two words rang out, Chu Gaius' smile was instantly frozen. Although those words were the words that he wanted to say, they were not said by him. Brother Yu. Chu Guyu looked towards Chu Feng, and his gaze was filled with anger. He originally wanted to give the chance to Chu Feng, but Chu Feng was a step faster. Chu Feng's face was already a lot better as he calmly walked next to Chu Guyu, smiled and said, "Don't mind it. I just feel that as both of you are disciples of a first-rate school, you are more suitable to be his opponent. Defeat him and wash away our shame from that year. Beat him and let him know who is the #1 person in the Chu family's young generation." After saying that, Chu Feng elegantly left the stage, but his actions undoubtedly set up another huge wave. Some people thought that Chu Feng was affectionate and gave his elder brother a chance, but there were also some people that felt that Chu Feng knew his limits. He knew that he wasn't the opponent of Chu Guyu or Chu Hongfei, so he gave up. No matter what the other people thought, Chu Gaius' heart was very clear on what his younger brother meant in his words. The competition entered the final stages when Chu Feng conceded. Chu Guyu and Chu Hongfei, both of them were at the 6th level of the spirit realm, and both of them entered a first-rate school. Without any more suspense, they became the final opponents. The most exciting moment of the competition was also reached. Almost everyone's gaze concentrated on the bodies of the two young people, and the battle for the strongest of the Chu family's young generation started. Asterisk whoosh whoosh asterisk the two of them exchanged blows, and all sorts of dazzling martial skills were used by them without restraint. They were indeed the disciples of a first-rate school. Not only were their skills strong, their battle techniques were also top quality. As the magnificent skills and strong wind were flying up and down on the stage, the two of them presented a visual feast for everyone. Brother, you must win. But when most of the people were in a mood of appreciation, Chu Feng only hoped that Chu Guyu would win. This battle was not only for the title. It was also representing whether Chu Feng and Chu Gaius' humiliation marked by Chu Hongfei that year would be wiped away or not. Asterisk bang asterisk, but when Chu Guyu flew off the stage with a mouthful of blood by Chu Hongfei's heavy punch, all of Chu Feng's hopes instantly disappeared along with the dust. Brother, Chu Feng ran as if he was insane towards Chu Guyu, and he was deeply afraid that his elder brother was injured greatly. When he arrived in front of Chu Guyu, he found out that Chu Guyu was silently looking at him with 2 streams of tears falling. He said with an extremely ashamed tone, "Your elder brother is useless and I've disappointed you." After saying that, Chu Guyu closed his eyes and fainted away. Seeing that his brother's injuries were so heavy, Chu Feng instantly panicked. Like I said, in the competition, you brothers better not meet me or else I'll hit you until you can't get back up. So, didn't I do what I said? The Chu Hanfei that was on the stage coldly smiled and looked at Chu Feng. His tone was filled with mock. "Bastard, I'll destroy you." Seeing that Chu Feng was like an angry tiger, he wanted to leap onto the stage and decide who was superior. "Fenger, stop." But before Chu Feng even leaped up, a strong hand tightly grabbed onto Chu Feng's shoulder. He turned around and looked. He was his father, Chu Yuan. "The round is already set. Don't be seen as a joke by others." Although Chu Yuan's tone was calm, Chu Feng could tell how angry Chu Yuan was from his gaze. That was correct. Which father would not be angry when they saw their son being beaten up like that? But in situations like this, he had to control his emotions. "That's right. Obedient one, listen to your father, or else your father will lose the chance for the position of the master." Chu Hongfei continued mocking. "Hongfei, I suggest that you speak with a bit of propriety." Facing that arrogant Chu Hongfei, Chu Yuan's face couldn't help but turn cold. "Fifth uncle, where am I wrong? The so-called winner is the king, loser is the thief. As the winner, I can insult the loser. That is with my right." Chu Hongfei said disapprovingly, "That's right, fifth uncle. I'm thinking that you already lost your chance on the position of the master. No need to be angry. If you want to blame someone, then you can only blame your two sons. If they could have beaten me, then the position of the master would have been yours. But what a shame. The one who won is me, Chu Hongfei, and not your two sons. Ha ha." Chu Hongfei brought his mad laughter away as he walked. At that instant, Chu Feng's anger was burning, but he could only endure. The debt that Chu Hongfei left, sooner or later, he would give it all back with interest. But he could not right now because he could not break the rules of the gathering, especially now. It was his father's critical moment in the choosing of the family master, so he could not burden Chu Yuan in any way. Just like that, the curtains of the competition fell. Chu Hongfei became the victor of the competition, and with the approval of the public, also the one person in the Chu family's young generation. Naturally, Chu Hongfei and his father Chu Nanshan became the biggest victors of the gathering. Everyone felt that since Chu Hongfei got first in the competition, Chu Nanshan's chance of getting the position of the master of the family was even larger. In reality, it was indeed so. Chu Yuanba personally gave the reward for being first in the competition to Chu Hongfei. He even let Chu Hongfei sit next to him to watch the rest of the details of the gathering. His eyes were drowning in love. The juniors from the Chu family do have some skill, but sadly, it is only limited within the Chu family. But just as the Chu family declared the end of the competition, a voice filled with ridicule suddenly rang out. People focused their gazes, and everyone couldn't help but stare blankly. In a certain area in the observing crowd, a young man was standing up. The young man was only 17 or 18 years old, but his pair of eyes were very serious. He was currently using that gaze to stare at the Chu Hongfei who was next to Chu Yuanba. "Who are you? How dare you behave so atrociously in my Chu family?" Someone asked loudly. "I am the inner court disciple of the first-rate 100 change school, son of Zhu Qiang from the Pear Tree Town's Zhu family. Also, I am not here to behave atrociously. I just want to spar and learn a bit from my peers from the Chu family." Publicly challenged the young generation of the Chu family, causing the elders from the Chu family to be extremely displeased. One after another, they criticized Zhu Qiang. "Why are you all so nervous?" My son said it very clearly. "It's just some learning from sparring and not some life and death battle. But if you are not confident and feel that your Chu family's young generation doesn't have the ability to win against my son, we can leave at this instant." Zhu Qiang faintly smiled and said, "Those words completely trapped the Chu family. If they didn't accept the challenge, they would be reduced to a laughingstock in the future. So, there was only one road in front of them to choose. Hongfei, are you confident?" Chu Yuanba looked at the Chu Hongfei who was next to him. "Grandfather, I can settle people like this in 10 moves." Chu Hongfei said as he was full of confidence. "Very good. Go, let this Zhu family know the strength of our Chu family's young generation." Chu Yuanba smiled with satisfaction. "Yes, sir." Chu Hongfei ran as if he was flying, then suddenly leaped. After a beautiful flip in the air, he landed on the stage. "Trash Zhu family, let's see if you can take 10 of my moves." Chu Feng immediately attacked and displayed a set of beautiful boxing techniques as he madly charged at Zhu Tianyi. However, Zhu Tianyi did not even dodge. Contempt was filled in his eyes, and only until Chu Feng got close, he stepped forward, raised his hand and slapped. Asterisk bang asterisk with that slap, one could see a graceful flower of blood in the horizon. The Chu Feng that was strong as tiger before instantly became like a kite with its string broken. He flew back through the air and fiercely landed on the ground. One move. He only used one move, the one person. In the Chu family's young generation, the Chu Feng, who was at the 6th level of the spirit realm, was not even able to take one move from the Zhu family's young man. That loss was really tragic. Impressive. That young man called Zhu Tianyi is at the 7th level of the spirit realm. Reaching that stage at this age, wouldn't he break all common sense? In the future, he is the true genius. At that instant, everything was in disorder. All sorts of yelling continued without stop as they were shocked by Zhu Tianyi's power. To be able to defeat Chu Feng in one slap revealed his bare strength. Zhu Qiang's son has such talent. Chu Yuanba's face was pale and the corners of his mouth was twitching. Not only did Chu Feng lose, he lost so thoroughly. With that, everyone knew the Chu family generation was unable to beat the Zhu family young generation. They couldn't even take one attack. That made Chu Yuanba feel that his face was non-existent. He lost all his face, but what could he have done? He couldn't blame his grandson's lack of talent, right? After all, his Chu family did not have any precedent people that were so overpowered. The Chu family young generation is only so-so. Zhu Qiang brought his arrogant laugh and the Zhu family group towards Zhu Tianyi's stage. "Is there anyone in the Chu family that dares to battle with me?" Zhu Tianyi did not let anyone go. He cast his gaze of disdain towards the young generation of the Chu family. At that instant, although everyone from the Chu family was extremely angry, no one dared to take up the challenge because they knew that they weren't able to beat Zhu Tianyi. If they still went up despite of that, it would just mean that they were disgracing themselves and people would have a lower opinion on them. Just leave it, Tianyi. No one in the Chu family's young generation can beat you. Just let them go. Zhu Qiang laughed and said, and it was extremely mocking. Seeing that they had their way, Zhu Tianyi coldly snorted and prepared to leave with Zhu Qiang. "I will accept the challenge." But just at that time, a thunder-like yell suddenly rang out. At the same time, a body leaped into the air and firmly landed on the stage with a beautiful curve. Chu Feng. Seeing the body on the stage, everyone was shocked. "Fenger, come back." Chu Yuan quickly yelled out because he was afraid that Chu Feng would be in the same situation as Chu Feng. Really embarrassing. Chu Yuanba's face turned green. He felt that Chu Feng's actions would only lose more face for the Chu family. "Boy, you think you can win?" Zhu Tianyi disdainfully looked at Chu Feng and didn't even put him in his eyes. "You'll know when you try." Chu Feng calmly smiled and said, "Very well." Zhu Tianyi leaped forward and instantly a blast of wind was stirred. In a blink, he arrived in front of Chu Feng. He still used that slap and he still aimed at that spot. He wanted Chu Feng to lose as miserable as Chu Feng. In that instant, some Chu family members turned their head and couldn't bear looking. They didn't feel sorry for Chu Feng, but they didn't want to see Chu Feng, who was going to lose even more of the Chu family's face. Asterisk whoosh asterisk, but just as people thought that Chu Feng would certainly lose, his body leaned slightly to the side and he easily dodged Zhu Tianyi's attack. After that, Chu Feng aimed to do a backhand slap at Zhu Tianyi's face. Chu Feng's speed was simply too fast, and the Zhu Tianyi, who was underestimating him, was instantly shocked. He immediately took his other hand and wanted to forcefully block Chu Feng's slap. But just as Zhu Tianyi's hand was going to touch Chu Feng's hand, Chu Feng's hand fluctuated and eventually disappeared. Damn it, this is a profound martial skill. Zhu Tianyi was able to react to that with his experience, but it was too late because Chu Feng's illusionary palm already firmly hit Zhu Tianyi's chest. Asterisk bang asterisk asterisk ta 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 asterisk, the palm landed, and Zhu Tianyi got pushed back a few steps. The strong power almost made him fall off the stage. Look, Chu Feng actually landed a hit on Zhu Tianyi. What a strong technique! He was able to get a small advantage from a person at the 7th level of the spirit realm. Cries of surprise sprung up everywhere, and everyone felt that it was unimaginable. Even the Chu family members that hated Chu Feng couldn't help but widen their eyes with traces of shock surging onto their faces. The slap that defeated Chu Hongfei in one strike, not only did Chu Feng dodge it, he even landed a hit on Zhu Tianyi. What did that mean? At least, it meant that Chu Feng's power was a lot stronger than Chu Hongfei's. Not to mention others, but even the Chu Yuanba, who felt angry before, paid more attention, and astonishment was filled in his gaze. A bit skillful, but I won't go easy on you this time. Asterisk bang asterisk Zhu Tianyi suddenly stepped forward, and even the stage trembled a bit by his step. With a strong force he arrived in front of Chu Feng once again. Both arms were spread, the shadows of the fists filled the air, bringing strong wind with them. They were like a rainstorm that went along with the wind. Rank 3 martial skill. The crowd was shocked. They could tell that Zhu Tianyi was using a rank 3 martial skill in which he mastered. Chu Feng could not possibly defend against that sort of martial skill. In addition to that strength, it came just at the right time. But people never would have thought that Chu Feng wouldn't retreat from Zhu Tianyi's fierce attacks. With the movement of both his arms, countless of palms gradually came. Every shadow of the palm was incomparably real. Focusing to look, it was as if Chu Feng's body grew countless amounts of arms. The aura that it was emitted was even stronger than Zhu Tianyi's. Asterisk bang 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 asterisk, the countless fists went against the countless palms. No one had the advantage at that time as they battled. Asterisk who tilde tilde asterisk, in that instant, the crowd started boiling again. It wouldn't be much if Chu Feng only used a rank 3 skill, but he used the rank 3 martial skill to a level which made him equal to Zhu Tianyi. It had to be known that he was only at the 6th level while his opponent was at the 7th level. Chu Feng is actually using this skill. After observing for a while, Chu Wei suddenly understood, and the shock on his face became denser. What skill is Chu Feng using? Suddenly, the voice of an old man rang next to him. Raising his head to look, it was Chu Yuanba. Shock was hung on Chu Yuanba's face as well, but within the gaze in which he was looking at Chu Feng, it was filled with the longing of an answer. As an expert of the origin stage, Chu Yuanba also discovered that Chu Feng was using a rank 3 skill as well, and it was a lot more mysterious than the skill Zhu Tianyi was using. According to his experience, a skill like that was extremely hard to train in, yet Chu Feng seemed to have already mastered it. So other than feeling astonished, he wanted to know what kind of skill it was. Grandfather, if I'm not mistaken, the skill Chu Feng is using is the hardest skill to train in the entire inner court of the Azure Dragon School, the illusionary palm. Chu Wei said seriously. What? It's the hardest skill to train in within the entire inner court. I never would have thought that this boy was this impressive. Chu Yuanba inhaled a breath of cool air. Not only that, grandfather, in this year's inner court disciple exam, there was a fierce person that battled 40 fierce beasts all by himself. Before the arrival of all the disciples, he killed all of the fierce beasts and took the reward for being the first. And we think that the fierce person is Chu Feng. Chu Wei continued narrating. Hearing Chu Wei's words, Chu Yuanba's face changed once again, and he was so shocked that he couldn't even speak. He immediately looked towards Chu Feng, only that his gaze was completely different. At that instant, he had a thought in his heart. Perhaps Chu Feng really was able to recover the face of the Chu family. Before, He never would have thought that the face of the Chu family would needed to be relied on this child to recover. After all, he was not truly a Chu family member, but Chu Feng was his only hope. Asterisk whoosh whoosh asterisk. It was extremely hard to determine who had the upper hand in the battle between Chu Feng and Zhu Tianyi. The observers could not tell who had the advantage, but Zhu Tianyi was gloomy. He did not pressure Chu Feng with his strength and his skills, and he only evened themselves out. He was already breathing roughly after many rounds of attacks, but Chu Feng's face did not change at all, as if he didn't know what was the things called tired. This isn't right. This guy is delaying this round and wants to waste all my strength. Zhu Tianyi felt that something was off as he said to himself, "It seems that I need to finish this fast." Thinking to that point, Zhu Tianyi did not dare to be slow. He changed his skill, and boundless pressure was emitted from his body. His entire atmosphere was different. Chu Feng could feel that the stage was trembling even more violently when he did that. On both of the fists of Zhu Tianyi, there was a silvery white color covering it. It was as if there was steel on it, and with it came an unconquerable aura as it came flying at Chu Feng. Rank 4 skill. Feeling Zhu Tianyi's explosive power, everyone's face changed greatly. Even the face of Chu Yuanba that just calmed down changed as well. Rank 4 skill. It wasn't something an ordinary disciple could train in. Within the martial arts training ground, there were many powers. From so many people, perhaps there wasn't even one that had a rank 4 skill. Even Chu Yuanba didn't have one. The reason was very simple. The cultivators that could train in the rank 4 skill were certainly important people in the schools. The future achievements of that person would not be limited to a small place like this. Also, not only were the rank 4 skills extremely hard to get, the difficulty to train in them was terrifying. Even if people got the rank 4 skill, they could not understand it. So, Zhu Tianyi being able to use the rank 4 skill would naturally shock everyone. Although he did not display the complete power of the rank 4 skill, he could be called a genius as he was able to use it. To this extent, lost, Chu Feng lost. That was the voices of the hearts of countless people. But it would not be injustice if he lost, because it wasn't that he was weak, it was his that opponent was too strong. After all, Chu Feng was still young, and using the power of the 6th level of the spirit realm to force Zhu Tianyi to this extent already spoke a lot about his talent. If he was at the same age as Zhu Tianyi, then perhaps the result would be different. Even though everyone felt that Chu Feng would undoubtedly lose, no one mocked him in his heart, because in their hearts Chu Feng was also a genius. Asterisk swoosh asterisk. But just at that time, Chu Feng also changed his skills. He stopped the fists that covered his entire body, and what took its spot was an afterimage that dodged Zhu Tianyi's attack like the wind. Asterisk bzz tilde asterisk. Behind him, a body was spinning. Strong wind rose, and there were even some lightning sparks. The momentum was only stronger, and no weaker when compared to Zhu Tianyi's previous momentum. This is heavens. It's a rank 4 skill. Chu Feng can also use a rank 4 skill. If it was said that Zhu Tianyi astonished people, the current Chu Feng would simply drive people insane. At the age of 15, he had the strength of the 6th level of the spirit realm. He could even use a rank 4 skill. He was simply broken. But the thing that was unbelievable was still behind Zhu Tianyi. Asterisk bzz asterisk. Chu Feng's whipped his leg out, and with the bits of lightning it swept towards Zhu Tianyi. Damn! Zhu Tianyi did not dare to be slow. He immediately retracted his hands to block it because he could feel how strong his leg whip was. Asterisk whoosh asterisk. But he never would have thought that Chu Feng would suddenly pull his lightning-fast leg whip back. Chu Feng changed his attacking angle and aimed at Zhu Tianyi's waist, then kicked out with his leg. Asterisk bang asterisk. Everything happened too fast. So fast that Zhu Tianyi wasn't even able to react to it. Chu Feng's leg fiercely kicked his waist, and with some cracking sounds, Zhu Tianyi flew off and fell off the stage. Tianyi, Seeing that, Zhu Qiang and the others were shocked as they quickly went up to support him. "Don't move." Suddenly, Zhu Tianyi bellowed and said with a full face of pain, "It's broken. The waist is broken." "What? Who tilde?" The entire place shook. Zhu Tianyi lost. A disciple of a first-rate school, a young man who was in the 7th level of the spirit realm lost. And he lost to a person who was 2 years younger than him and was only at the 6th level of the spirit realm. Asterisk hualala tilde asterisk suddenly. The people who were watching all stood up and clapped like the thunder. Some people even started cheering and kept on yelling Chu Feng's name. They could not control their emotions. A person who was 15 years old, had the cultivation of the 6th level of the spirit realm, could use rank 4 skills, and he even defeated his opponent who was at the 7th level of the spirit realm. He could not be called as a genius. He was simply a monster. The battles were way too brilliant. Although the last exchange happened in a split moment, it still let people feel extremely carefree and excited. A monster like that appeared in the Chu family. It seems that we should build good relationships with the Chu family in the future. Some people already hiddenly decided to have more contacts with the Chu family, for no other reason than the appearance of a monster like Chu Feng in the Chu family. For the Chu family that had such a person, the only problem for their success was time. In the future, they could not stop it even if they wanted to. So, many people saw the chance in their eyes and felt that as long as they had a good relationship with the Chu family now, perhaps in the future they could have a huge power to rely on. Asterisk whoosh asterisk Chu Feng leapt off from the stage. He did not bother enjoying the cheering and clapping, and he directly walked out of the training grounds. No one knew what to do as they looked at the back of Chu Feng. Only Chu Yuanba smiled and said in a low voice, "It seems like this guy has very deep resentments." After leaving the martial arts training ground, Chu Feng went to Chu Gaius' room. Chu Hongfei's punch was very fierce and it was really not light when it hit Chu Guyu. After being unconscious for a good 4 hours, he slowly awakened. "Brother, what happened outside? Why is it so loud?" Chu Guyu didn't know what happened at the martial arts training ground. "Nothing." Chu Feng's smile was very calm. "Ah, perhaps 6th uncle is the master now. It's all because of me. If I could have won, father would have." Chu Guyu kept on blaming himself. "Guyu, are you any better?" But just at that time, Chu Yuanba walked in. Behind him were Chu Yuan, Chu Reni, Chu Nanshan, and some other people with high status. "Grandfather, I'm fine." Seeing Chu Yuanba, Chu Guyu immediately sat up. He did not dare to neglect this grandfather. "It's good if you're fine." Chu Yuanba lightly chuckled, and on his face the rare benevolence emerged onto his face. Then he shot a glance at the Chu Nanshan behind him. Seeing that, Chu Nanshan said with a bit of embarrassment, "Guyu, it's all because that child Hongfei inappropriately attacked. But don't put it to heart because now his injuries are heavier than yours." "What? Chu Hongfei also got injured?" Chu Guyu was a bit stunned. "Ah." Chu Nanshan bitterly laughed but said nothing more and looked meaningfully at Chu Feng. Following Chu Nanshan's gaze, Chu Guyu stared blankly at first, but shortly after it was like he thought of something and the color of his face changed as he was surprised. Just at that time, Chu Yuanba also spoke. "Fenger, thank you for today, or else our Chu family's face really would have been trampled over by the Zhu family." As Chu Yuanba spoke, he took out 10 Saint Spirit grasses from his pocket and gave it to Chu Feng. Seeing that, everyone couldn't help but be at a loss. The reward of getting first place in the competition was only 2 Saint Spirit grasses, but now Chu Yuanba took 10 out. It was not a small number. "Grandfather, what does this mean?" Chu Feng pretended to not understand. "This is what you should get. Take it. If you take it, I can feel more comfortable." As he talked, Chu Yuanba had an apologetic face on. Although he never made things hard for Chu Feng, he never stopped the scenes in which Chu Feng got bullied by the Chu family. As for the reason, it was very simple. It was because he didn't like Chu Feng in his heart as well. But today, If it wasn't for Chu Feng, his Chu family would have been the laughingstock of the crowd. Also because of Chu Feng, the Chu family's prestige increased many times. Just now there were already a few people from different powers that expressed their goodwill towards the Chu family. Chu Yuanba knew that it was caused by Chu Feng, and also because of that Chu Yuanba felt more guilty towards Chu Feng. Fenger, seeing that Chu Feng was hesitating, Chu Yuan quickly urged him, "Then thank you, grandfather." Chu Feng accepted the Saint Spirit grasses, but he had no smile on his face. Chu Yuanba did not mind Chu Feng's actions. Rather, he was happy. He turned around and said to Chu Yuan, "In the future, the yearly supplement for Fenger will be 5 Saint Spirit grasses." With Chu Yuanba's words, not only other people, even Chu Yuan was astonished. There had never been such treatment before, and Chu Yuanba obviously wanted to develop Chu Feng well. Although at that time the faces of Chu Nanshan and the others were not good, they did not dare to say anything. Because in the Chu family, Chu Yuanba was like the sky. Even if the position of the family master changed, Chu Yuanba was still the real boss of the Chu family. The three of you continue chatting. Remember to take care of Gaia's injuries. Although today you are the master, don't ignore family relationships. Chu Yuanba instructed Chu Yuan. "I understand, father." Chu Yuan responded. Chu Yuanba looked at Chu Feng, and seeing Chu Feng's icy face, Chu Yuanba awkwardly smiled and brought the crowd and left. "Father, look at Chu Feng's attitude. He is really too." Just as they walked out of the courtyard, Chu Nanshan started to criticize Chu Feng. "Shut up." But what he got instead was an angry rebuke from Chu Yuanba. He pointed at the crowd with an icy face and said with an extremely serious expression, "Listen up, all of you. I do not want to hear anyone say anything bad about Fenger. If I hear it, no matter who it is, it will be handled without exception by the family law." Hearing those words, the faces of Chu Nanshan and the others paled. They didn't dare to say anything because they knew in the future, in the Chu family, they could not offend Chu Feng anymore. "Father, you're the master now." With the room, Chu Feng was nicely surprised. "Yeah, to be able to get this master position is all thanks to you, my precious son." Chu Yuan was also all smiles. "I never would have thought that you were hiding so many things." He. Chu Feng also smiled very happily as he was facing his father's praise. He worked so hard was to become the pride of Chu Yuan, and today it seemed that his wish was reached. "Father, brother, what is happening here?" Finally, the fog-headed Chu Guyu spoke. Seeing that, Chu Yuan smiled at first, then he described everything in detail that happened on the martial arts training ground after Chu Feng left, which included the sorry leaving figures of the Zhu family, Chu Yuanba's announcement that Chu Yuan would take the position of the master, expressing goodwill towards various powers, etc. After knowing all that, Chu Guyu had his mouth wide open, and he was so shocked that he couldn't say anything. His gaze towards Chu Feng became strangely complicated. He never would have thought that his brother would be like that. But no matter what, as the elder brother of Chu Feng, he truly felt happy for Chu Feng, because he knew his brother no longer required his protection. After the gathering, Chu Feng became the topic of heated discussions in the area within the circumference of 100 miles. A lot of people knew that the Chu family produced a martial cultivation genius who was only 15 years old. Some people even heavily exaggerated Chu Feng. Something about cracking the stage with 1 foot, a gale created with 1 breath, and the exaggerations simply became legends. Some people even started to have suspicions on whether Chu Feng was a human or not. But no matter what, Chu Feng was obviously the most paid attention topic of the mountain area, especially within the Chu family. Under the pressure of Chu Yuanba, no one dared to say anything bad to Chu Feng, and no one dared to be disrespectful to Chu Feng. They had no choice but to face Chu Feng with a whole new attitude and recognize him differently. On that day, Chu Feng and the others returned back to the Azure Dragon School. When leaving, Chu Feng gave Chu Guyu a slip of paper and told him that he can only open it after he left. "You have something under your pillow." That was the contents of the paper slip. Looking at Chu Feng and the others who were riding horses and gradually getting farther and farther, Chu Guyu helplessly shook his head. He did not know what circle his brother was moving him in. But after returning to his room, he still curiously lifted his pillow. Chu Guyu had a calm expression on as he lifted the pillow, as it was not important. But his face instantly changed like the waves because under his pillow there were 10 Saint Spirit grasses. That number was not much to the Chu Feng, who refined 2 spiritual beads and dozens of Saint Spirit grasses, but to Chu Guyu it was a huge number. Ah! After being shocked, Chu Guyu suddenly laughed. He looked at the direction of the Azure Dragon School and muttered, "It seems like the elder brother will have to rely on the younger brother from now on." Chu Feng did a great service for the Chu family, so Chu Yuanba wanted to focus on developing Chu Feng. Everyone in the Chu family knew about that, thus their attitude towards Chu Feng also changed. On the road back to the Azure Dragon School, the people that were hostile towards Chu Feng started to take the initiative to get closer to him. But other than Chu Iwei, Chu Feng's attitude while facing them could only be neither cold nor hot. Seeing Chu Feng and Chu Iwei joking together, playing around and being lively, many people endlessly envied Chu Iwei, and also at the same time they regretted their actions towards Chu Feng. Their intestines even became green, but they could only regret because the only thing that the world didn't have was a medicine for regret. TN. Intestines becoming green. Intestines only become green after dying, so it's exaggerating that they died from regret. Chu Iwei, if you have anything, remember to find me. You know where my residence is. After arriving to the Azure Dragon School, Chu Feng only said goodbye to Chu Iwei and didn't care about the feelings of others as he left while swaggering. Chu Wei's expression was very complicated as he looked at Chu Feng's back. He really wanted to say to Chu Feng, join the Chu Alliance. If you want, you can even take the spot as the head of the alliance. But he could not say that because he knew that he had no face to say it. He also knew Chu Feng would not enter even if he said that. Even he felt that Chu Feng did not deserve the Chu Alliance. The Chu Feng who was able to beat a person who was at the 7th level of the spirit realm. Even in the entire inner court, he could certainly be seen as outstanding. Chu Feng did not directly return to his residence. He came to the inner court's mission selection location. The inner court disciples were fairly free, but a lot of people still willingly remained at the school to cultivate because the Azure Dragon School could provide a large amount of cultivating resources. Other than the yearly spiritual medicine hunt, this mission selection location could be said to be only route to gain cultivating resources. Just as the name implied, the so-called mission selection location was to select all sorts of missions, and after finishing, the appropriate reward would be given. There were light missions and there were more serious ones. The light ones were finding items for people or escorting convoys, whereas the more serious ones were killing monsters or helping in fights. As for the reward for the missions, naturally, they was related to the difficulty. Why are all these missions so simple? Chu Feng was standing inside the mission selection location's main hall while supporting his chin with his hand. He looked back and forth on the mission plates which were hung on the mission board, but after looking for a good while, he did not find any that he liked. Because of the divine lightning in his body, if Chu Feng wanted to raise his cultivation level, the amount of spiritual energy he required would get larger and larger. It would not be simply settled by a few Saint Spirit grasses. So that was why Chu Feng put his current goal on the spiritual beads. But after looking through the entire mission board, the highest reward for a mission was only a few Saint Spirit grasses. Spiritual beads. No need to even think about it. It seems that I can only stack up the little things to form the great. Thinking to that point, Chu Feng did an insane decision. He flicked his arm and madly grabbed all the high-difficulty missions plates that rewarded Saint Spirit grasses on the mission board into his hands. Damn, look at what that boy is doing. Is he crazy? He isn't here to create trouble, is he? Chu Feng's actions undoubtedly attracted people's attention. In their eyes, with Chu Feng's age, at most he would be at the 4th level of the spirit realm. The high-difficulty missions required at least the 6th level of the spirit realm to complete, which was not something he could do. So, every felt that if Chu Feng wasn't crazy, then he was creating trouble. But after all, there were limited high-difficulty missions. So, after taking all the missions that rewarded Saint Spirit grasses, Chu Feng cast his gaze onto the medium-difficulty missions. If Chu Feng crazily took the high-difficulty mission plates, it would only attract their attention. But if Chu Feng extended his hand towards the medium-difficulty plates, it would attract their hate. "Oi, what are you doing? Do you have a problem?" Suddenly, someone yelled out. Chu Feng frowned and looked at the person who yelled at him. Only then did he discover that he knew that person. He was someone that entered the inner court disciple exam at the same time as Chu Feng, and also the person who people thought highly of, Duan Yuxuan. The current Duan Yuxuan's face was very ugly. After searching hard for a long time, he finally found a mission that he liked. But Chu Feng just grabbed it. If Chu Feng really wanted the mission, then it would be fine. But obviously Chu Feng didn't, so Duan Yuxuan couldn't tolerate that. "You're cursing me?" Chu Feng calmly asked. "So, what if I am? Do you have a damn problem? Do you think this is opened by your family? From what I can see with your mission grabbing, you are just here to make trouble." Bang before Duan Yuxuan even finished talking, a clear slap landed on his face. A strong power made Duan Yuxuan feel that he was floating for a moment as his entire body flew up. As he landed, he opened his mouth and 3 teeth came out. Hua *****. The crowd went into uproar because, just now, everyone could feel that the seemingly unimpressive young man was an expert of the 6th level of the spirit realm. His aura was also extremely thick, and all of that made people speechless. 6th level of the spirit realm, although it wasn't the strongest within the inner court, to be able to reach the 6th level at that age already took people aback. The Dragon and Tiger brothers in the Wings Alliance were also at the 6th level of the spirit realm, and obviously, the young person in front of them was stronger than the brothers. Chu Feng ignored the shocked gazes of the crowd as he stuffed a large amount of mission plates into his bag on his shoulder. He pointed at Duan Yuxuan, who was on the ground, and said, "Pay attention when you speak next time. I'll take how many missions I want, and it has nothing to do with you." After saying that, Chu Feng elegantly left. With his current strength, the people in the 7th level of the spirit realm were not even suitable for him. Even against people who were at the 8th level of the spirit realm, as long as he used everything he had, he could have a battle as well. From what he knew in the entire inner court, the strongest people seemed to only be from the 8th level, and there were no more than 10 people who were like that. So, in the entire inner court, there were not many people whom he was afraid of. Also, after being in contact with Sume, he did not worry about people's suspicions towards his cultivating talent, which was caused by his special body. After all, in the inner court, there was already a genius like Sume. To know, in the Azure Dragon School, in the Azure province, and even in the entire 9 provinces, there would be even countless more impressive geniuses. So, the current innate skill that he was displaying was not worth being suspicious towards. That was why Chu Feng felt that there was no need to hide his strength anymore. At least he wouldn't lower his head towards others. After experiencing the Chu family gathering, Chu Feng also discovered a principle. Only with powerful strength will people respect him. So, from now on, he would not have a trace of restraint towards people that disrespect him. Who is this guy? The pressure that he was emitting just now was quite scary. I don't think that I've heard of him before. People started the discussions as they looked at Chu Feng's elegant back. I know who he is. He's Chu Feng, and he's also the person that refused the invitation of the Wings Alliance. Just at that time someone yelled that out. With those words, the crowd exclaimed in surprise once again. As for the Duan Yuxian who was lying on the floor, he had some lingering fear. Someone who was at the 6th level of the spirit realm and also who has the support of the Wings Alliance was not someone he could offend. Get out of my face. If you dare to continue blocking me, then I'll break you. But just as Chu Feng left the mission selection location, he heard the sharp voice of a girl, Su Mei. Hearing that voice, Chu Feng couldn't help but be alarmed. He even thought that Su Mei met with trouble, so he quickly went towards the direction of the voice. Indeed, nearby, he found Su Mei's figure. But currently around Su Mei were a dozen or so Sword Alliance members. They did not conceal their aura, so Chu Feng could clearly feel that most of the people there were at the 5th level of spirit realm. The strongest one was a young man, and he was at the 6th level of the spirit realm. That person had a high figure, white face, thick eyebrows, and big eyes. It could be said that he was a typical pretty boy. He was currently sinisterly smiling at Su Mei, and the group of Sword Alliance members were teasing Su Mei in front of the crowd. But perhaps because of Su Mei's special status, the teasing from the white-faced male had quite some level, so it made Su Mei extremely displeased, and there was signs of her preparing to flip out. Seeing that, the Chu Feng that originally wanted to help out instantly stopped his steps. He clearly understood Su Mei's strength. She was at the 7th level of the spirit realm, yet those people still dared to annoy Su Mei. They were simply looking to die. But obviously, the girl still did not want to expose her strength, so she forcefully endured and did not attack. So, Chu Feng just joined the observers for the liveliness and hiddenly laughed in his heart. I'll see how much longer you can endure this. Lady Su Mei, I, Jian Chen, truly like you. Can't you give me a chance? In the entire inner court, no matter it be status, strength, or looks, who could fit you other than me, Jian Chen? That white-faced male called Jian Chen confessed with deep emotions. But his pair of thief eyes were scanning back and forth on Su Mei's body. When he saw an attracting area, he couldn't help but lick his lips. Su Mei's endurance obviously reached the limit, because the thing that she could not stand the most was being annoyed by someone. But just as she was going to explode, she suddenly saw a familiar figure in the crowd. A thought suddenly occurred, and she retracted her angry expression, while saying a bit embarrassedly to Jian Chen, "Actually, I already love someone." "What? You have a lover who?" Hearing Su Mei's words, Jian Chen was as if he got hit by a huge blow and instantly got angry. Su Mei smiled proudly, cast her gaze towards the crowd, and used an extremely warm tone to say, "Darling, you're just watching when someone bullies me." And the person she was looking at was exactly Chu Feng in the crowd. Damn! Chu Feng hid and yelled in his heart. He never would have thought that Su Mei would discover him so soon, and she even made a fool of him. Su Mei was obviously taking him as a shield. Although he was displeased in his heart as a man, and while facing the concentrated gazes of the people all around him, how could Chu Feng retreat? After all, he was originally planning to help Su Mei out. "Baby, I just arrived. Which bastard is bullying you? I'll help you take care of him." Chu Feng put up an act as he walked out of the crowd. He came in front of Su Mei, smiled sinisterly, then did an action that completely stupefied everyone. He waved his hand, and a burst of strong wind swept across. It pushed the delicate little beauty Su Mei into his embrace. That scene could really be said to make people's eyes widen and jaws drop. Everyone had their mouths wide open, and some people almost had their eyeballs fall out. Who was Su Mei? She was a genius that everyone knew in the inner court, and also a renowned beauty. Although there weren't many people that saw her, those who did see her were charmed by her beauty. Many people even saw her as the goddess in their eyes. Those who had strong abilities and strong backgrounds directly confessed to Su Mei. This Jian Chen was only one of them. Being flirted with in front of so many people, Su Mei was also angry to the point that both her eyes were on fire, but after thinking that it was for herself, she strongly resisted against her anger. Not only did she not flip out, she was brimming with smiles of happiness and continued to stay in Chu Feng's embrace. At that instant, Chu Feng could feel two balls of softness touching his stomach. That comfortable feeling instantly made him quiver once. After that, he couldn't help but more tightly embrace Su Mei a bit more and enjoyed that soft feeling as much as he liked. Damn it, who are you? As he saw his own goddess being embraced by someone else in front of him, xianxia only felt anger attacking his heart, and killing intent was emitted from his body. Who am I? I am the one whom Su Mei loves. Chu Feng stuck out his chest and raised his head as he said proudly, "You bastard." Su Mei cursed in her heart. Everyone could figure out what Chu Feng meant. His meaning was that Su Mei loved him instead of the other way around. Damn it, I'll break you. Finally, xianxia exploded. He pulled out the sword behind his back and stabbed towards Chu Feng. Darling, take care of him for me. The thing that made Chu Feng speechless was the Su Mei in his embrace actually pushed him out. That push had plenty of power in it, and it directly pushed him towards xianxia's sword. That was simply taking advantage of Chu Feng, and she was taking revenge without even disguising it. But what strength did Chu Feng have? People in the 7th level of the spirit realm weren't even worth being his opponent, let alone a person of the 6th level. Bang! Chu Feng leaned to the side and dodged xianxia's attack. After that, he raised his leg and directly kicked xianxia into a miserable state. Boy, you're looking to die. Seeing that, the dozen or so remaining Sword Alliance members waved the sword in the hands and unrestrainedly chopped towards Chu Feng. But how could they be Chu Feng's opponent? Within a blink, the dozen or so people all got beaten up to the point where they were bleeding from their noses, bruised all over their body, rolling on the floor and howling in pain. Chu Feng stepped on the body of xianxia and said aggressively, "If you dare to disturb my darling in the future, I'll break all your teeth." After saying that, Chu Feng went in front of Su Mei while chuckling and embraced her without restraint. He then said, "Let's sit over there, darling," then swaggeringly walked towards his own residence. Who is this guy? He dared to do that to Su Mei. Seeing the scene in which the two of them were relying on each other as they were leaving, at the same time that the people suspected his identity, the sounds of heartbreaking could also be heard. As they walked, Chu Feng was really unrestrained. He tightly hugged the Su Mei in his embrace while completely ignoring Su Mei's gaze of contempt and also that small hand that was hiddenly pinching his arm. These were Chu Feng's thoughts. Even I need to endure the pain, I will still take small advantages of you. The so-called, if you don't take the advantages of the small things, then you don't take advantage at all. This is the price for taking me as the shield. Bastard, enough. Just as they entered Chu Feng's residence, Su Mei pushed Chu Feng away. A gust of wind passed by, and Su Mei's sharp kick came sweeping towards him. Damn! Chu Feng was shocked because Su Mei surpassed him no matter if it was speed or strength. This girl was already at the 8th level of the spirit realm. Whoosh! Chu Feng had no way of dodging as he faced the Su Mei who was so strong. Under his helplessness, he could only use the first style of the 3 thunder styles. With that, Chu Feng was like the lightning. His speed instantly increased several times and he dashed, finally dodging Su Mei's attack. How is her power so strong? Chu Feng was shocked. According to his guesses, if he faced against experts of the 8th level, even if he could not win, there could be at least quite a battle. But with Su Mei's attack, and it was clearly only a normal attack, it forced Chu Feng's trump card, which was the 3 thunder styles in which he wouldn't usually use. It simply exceeded his imagination. HMPH. You think you're the only one that trained in the mysterious techniques. Seeing the astonished face of Chu Feng, Su Mei disdainfully shot Chu Feng a glance. She didn't attack Chu Feng anymore. She just sat on the chair in the hall, picked up an apple and started biting it. Mysterious techniques. You've trained in the mysterious techniques. Chu Feng was even more shocked. Of course, he clearly knew what the mysterious techniques were. They were called the mysterious techniques because they were techniques, and they were mysterious. Those who grasped the cultivating techniques could condense the spiritual energy. If they had good talent, it was completely possible for them to break through into the origin realm. But to those who only had those cultivating techniques, the first level of the origin realm would be the end of their cultivation. For example, Chu Feng's grandfather Chu Yuanba. It was because the origin realm was a whole new realm. What was required was not condensed spiritual energy. It was the origin power. The origin power existed between the skies and the earth, but it was not concentratable by cultivating techniques. The only way to condense the origin power was to use the mysterious techniques. But the techniques were too precious and too rare. According to rumors, in the entire Azure Dragon School, there were only a few books of them. And other than the elders, only core disciples could train in them. But Su Mei was only an inner court disciple, so how could she have trained in the mysterious techniques? Unless, is it that strange? Even you trained in the mysterious techniques. Does that mean I can't? Su Mei curled her lips and said, so this girl thought I trained in the mysterious techniques. Chu Feng understood. He had only heard of the mysteriousness of the mysterious techniques, but he had never seen them before. But thinking a bit more carefully, all of his behaviors up to this point really was quite similar to the rumored people that trained in the mysterious techniques. Oi, what is this expression? Don't tell me that you haven't trained in the techniques, and it was actually because of your strange innate gift that you could defeat the strong as the weak. I really did not train in the mysterious techniques. Chu Feng said, you're telling the truth. Su Mei walked over. Chu Feng nodded after staring at Chu Feng for a good while, as if trying to find hints of him lying at the end. She said with shock, it seems that the people who have the spirit power are quite impressive. If you didn't train in the mysterious techniques, yet you are already so strong, what would happen after you did? How could I possibly train in things like the mysterious techniques? Chu Feng shook his head. If it was possible, he really did want to see the so-called mysterious techniques, especially now when he knew that Su Mei, who already trained in the mysterious techniques, improved so quickly and the cultivations became so strong. He looked forward to those mysterious techniques even more. Looking at the Chu Feng, who revealed an expression of yearning, Su Mei frowned as if doing a very hard decision. After a while she said, I can give you the mysterious techniques. Are you speaking the truth? Hearing those words, Chu Feng's expression changed greatly. Does it look like I'm lying to you? Su Mei's face was full of seriousness. What's the price? The price is to join in the Wings Alliance. Why do you want me to join in the Wings Alliance so much? Because I want to rope you in. Right now, I am in the Wings Alliance. The Wings Alliance is relying on my power, so I feel that if you join then, you can increase this power. Also, you have no road of retreat. What do you mean? Chu Feng felt uneasy. Did you not know that the giant Chen that you just beaten up was the younger brother of the Alliance Master of the Sword? Alliance? Su Mei said while smiling horribly. You damn girl. Chu Feng suddenly understood everything. After doing so much, not only did she use him as a shield, she even made unresolvable hatred between him and the Sword Alliance. If the person that he beaten was only regular members of the Sword Alliance, then perhaps the Sword Alliance would ignore him due to his strength and not look into it too much. But the one Chu Feng beaten up was the Alliance Master's own younger brother. With that, the Sword Alliance would undoubtedly investigate it to the end, because not only did it involve their faces, it involved family affection. I know that you have a spirit that is not afraid of the heavens or the earth, but you need to remember that you may not be afraid. Then what about your Chu Iwei and your Chu family? Would they be afraid? Su Mei tried again and said, I really did underestimate you. Chu Feng never would have thought that she would understand him that much. It was obvious that she investigated the details about him, but he still said seriously, "My reply are still those words. I refuse." "Chu Feng, aren't you just a bit too arrogant?" Su Mei was quite angry. Even with the mysterious techniques he still refused. It really made her unable to endure it, and her bossy temper instantly started to break out. "This isn't the problem of me being arrogant or not. It's just that I don't like other people threatening me. You can leave." Chu Feng moved, his hand back and forth. After being coerced by Su Mei like that, it would not be normal if Chu Feng was not angry. Bang asterisk, but just at that time, Chu Feng's door to his residence was violently pushed open by someone. After that, Chu Gao stumbled and tripped his way in. When he saw Chu Feng, it was as if he saw his savior. He loudly yelled, "Young Master Chu Feng, please save them or else it'll be too late." "Chu Gao, what happened?" Seeing that, Chu Feng was greatly alarmed because he saw Chu Gao with injuries, obviously showing that he suffered from an intense battle. "Young Master Chu Feng, young lady Chu Iwei." Chu Gao had a full face of panic and some words were scrambled up. "Quickly bring me there." After hearing the name Chu Iwei, Chu Feng didn't bother asking much and pulled Chu Gao while rushing out, but before leaving, Chu Feng fiercely shot Su Mei a glance because he felt that it was probably the Sword Alliance that came. They came so fast. Seeing that, Su Mei curved her mouth upwards, and after thinking for a while she also followed them. And on the road it turned out that Chu Gao and the others didn't meet the Sword Alliance's revenge. They provoked another alliance. Previously, after Chu Feng left, Chu Wei and the others met a fatty. That fatty saw Chu Iwei and Chu Shwei's beautiful appearance and teased them in front of the crowd. So, Chu Wei and the others started beating that fatty up, but they never would have thought that it attracted a group of experts. So, the fatty that was only in the third level of the spirit realm was a master of an alliance. Not only were there a lot of people, there were many experts. Right now, the Chu family were all caught by them, and Chu Gao was the only person to run out. Wait, would the name of that fatty be Liu Mang, and his alliance be called the Liu Alliance? Su Mei spoke and asked, "I don't know what he's called, but his alliance is indeed the Liu Alliance." Chu Gao replied. At that instant, the Su Mei that always feared nothing started to frown, and she said with a heavy expression to Chu Feng, "Chu Feng, your family has gotten into big trouble." "What do you mean?" Hearing Su Mei's seriousness, Chu Feng also understood that those people may not be that simple. "If I'm not mistaken, that fatty is called Liu Mang. Although he is only in the third level of the spirit realm, he is indeed the alliance master of the Liu Alliance. That Liu Alliance is no simple thing. They have at least 100 members, and within them, there are 2 experts of the 7th level. In the many alliances in the entire inner court, the Liu Alliance is at least in the top 10. There's a reason why trash like the Liu Alliance can recruit so many members to join. Do you know he relies on what? His grandfather, Liu Chenjin, is the manager of the Azure Dragon School's inner court punishment department. Also, Liu Mang is the only son remaining in the Liu family, so his grandfather spoils him a lot. The reason why Liu Mang has such powerful rallies is naturally because of his relationship with his grandfather. Within the inner court, as long as they don't kill, no one will investigate virtually any crimes by the Liu Alliance members. That's why they can be so reckless. Su Mei explained. "Why are you telling me all this?" Chu Feng's gaze became more heavy. "The Liu Alliance are not people that you can provoke, but I can help you as long as you join the Wings Alliance." Su Mei smiled and said, "We are both human and there's no one who I cannot provoke. Also, you've got something wrong. It's not that I'm provoking him, it's that he's provoking me. I appreciate your good intentions, but this is my own family's business. As a man, I want to deal with myself." After saying that, Chu Feng bellowed at Chu Gao. "Chu Gao, lead the way." "Okay." After Chu Gao's loud reply, they quickly ran towards the Liu Alliance. This guy really is a bastard. Salt and oil simply does not mix with him. Looking at Chu Feng and Chu Gao's back, Sume pouted her small mouth, but after a quick moment of hesitation, she still followed them. In a certain area, in the inner court, there was a huge residence. It was Liu Mang's home and also the headquarters of the Liu Alliance. At that moment, outside of the Liu Alliance, there were several hundreds inner court disciples that were gathered around, and the amount of observers kept on increasing. Because in front of the huge doors of the Liu Alliance, there were a dozen or so disciples hung there. Their flesh was split open and they had fresh blood all over their bodies. Some people already fainted. Those people were Chu Wei, Chu Cheng, Chu Zhen, and others. Quickly look. The Liu Alliance are having a demonstration again by bullying disciples just like that. Is no one managing this? Managing? Who's going to manage it? The manager of the inner court punishment department is the grandfather of Liu Mang. Who dares to manage him in the inner court? He's just like a small overlord in the inner court. Shh, quiet down. If you let the Liu Alliance hear you, then you will end just like those people. Sadly, those two young girls were so pretty, but I'm afraid that they're going to get ruined by Liu Mang. The observing disciples dared to be angry, but not to speak up. Although within all the Alliance powers in the inner court, the Liu Alliance was not the strongest, their background were very deep. Damn, that Liu Mang is looking for death. Just at that time, Chu Feng and the others quickly arrived. Seeing the Chu family who were horribly injured, Chu Feng had no way of controlling his anger and rushed straight towards the Liu Alliance. Halt! This is the Liu Alliance headquarters. Non-Liu Alliance members are not allowed in. Seeing someone was getting close, a member that guarded the gates into the Liu Alliance loudly yelled, "Damn, you!" Chu Feng leaped up and kicked that person to the ground. After that, Chu Feng pulled the person's collar and punched his face 3 times with 3 bangs. That person's face was full of blood and his nose was crooked. After that, Chu Feng waved his arm and threw that person like a bag of sand into the air. After a beautiful curve, it landed in the courtyard of the Liu Alliance. People from the Liu Alliance, listen up. Quickly release Chu Iwei and Chu Shwei, or else I will trample over your alliance. Chu Feng's voice was like the thunder. Not to mention the nearby observers, but even the people within the Liu Alliance residence could hear it clearly. Damn, who is that guy? He dares to challenge the Liu Alliance just like that. I don't know. I never seen him before, but looking his age, he seems to be this year's new disciple. It's really newborn calf is not afraid of the tiger. He dares to challenge the entire Liu Alliance by himself. It seems that he's tired of living. Many people did a tribute towards Chu Feng's, as they all felt that he was doing the same as looking for death. Indeed, just as Chu Feng finished talking, the doors of the Liu Alliance residence violently opened. A whole 100 people aggressively rushed out. Those people were still young and all of them were tall and big. Their strength were not weak either. The weakest was at the 4th level of the spirit realm. The strongest was at the 6th level. Which bastard dares to act so wildly in the Liu Alliance? Break him. One of the person looked in the courtyard and saw the member who had his nose crooked and eyes slanted. He said nothing and rushed towards Chu Feng. Today, those who dare block me will receive the consequences. As he faced the near 100 Liu Alliance members, the enraged Chu Feng did not back off in the slightest. He was like a crazy tiger, and he leaped into the army of the Liu Alliance. Chu Feng's attacks were extremely ruthless. To those who got caught by him, the light injuries were serious injuries, and the heavy injuries were those who instantly lost consciousness. Every move drew blood and he was unparalleled. In front of him, no matter if it was level 4s or level 6s, none of them were able to take one of his attacks. In an instant, all sorts of howls of pain resounded everywhere. Heavens, who is this guy? How is he so strong? He's too scary. At such an age, he is already so merciless. That bone-piercing killing intent really goes straight to the soul and terrifies people. Chu Feng slaughtered into the Liu Alliance with a Blink, the entire Liu alliance were utterly defeated. Everyone cried out in surprise, and even some observers trembled in fear. As for those 100 young males, how were they even the Liu alliance members that terrified people with their name? In front of Chu Feng, they were simply a group of kind little sheep. In front of the tiger, even wolves would be submissive. In front of demons, even evil people would become kind. This guy, I still underestimated him. Su Mei's beautiful pair of eyes were hiddenly flashing as she was in a corner within the crowd who were watching Chu Feng's annihilation. Her sweet face was no longer calm. Not to mention his dodging strength, but he was already so ruthless at that age. Even if it was Su Mei, she may not have been able to do it. After all, they were still so young. But Chu Feng did it. If it wasn't for the Azure Dragon School rules, Su Mei had no doubt that Chu Feng would have killed all the people there. That also meant that Chu Feng's mind was still clear, but to be able to remain a clear mind under such furious situations, that said even more about Chu Feng's scariness. If he was already like this at this age, what would happen if he grew up? At that instant, Su Mei really did have a completely new understanding towards Chu Feng. He, my two beauties, let's see how you two can resist now. In a certain room in the Liu Alliance residence, a fatty, who had a full face of pustules, was fat-headed and had large ears, was on the bed while looking at Chu Iwei and Chu Shwei. He was the alliance master of the Liu Alliance, the notorious big molester Liu Mang. Chu Iwei and Chu Shwei's hands and feet were tightly tied to the head of the bed. Even their mouths were sealed shut. Their eyes were full of fear as they trembled and constantly struggled. Also, other than those three people, at that moment, there were also 2 young men standing within the room. Those 2 were the experts of the 7th level of the spirit realm, the strongest within the Liu Alliance. As for why they were there, the reason was quite amusing. It was because Liu Mang's strength was too weak and he had no way to assault Chu Iwei and Chu Shwei. So, he had no choice but to get the 2 of them to tie Chu Shwei and Chu Iwei up so it was easier for Liu Mang. They did not do any small amounts of horrible things like that. Most likely, they could have a sweet taste after Liu Mang felt refreshed. So, at that instant, they did not plan to leave. They prepared to watch a reality show on scene as they waited for Liu Mang to finish. After that, they could go at it as well. But just at that moment, another heartbreaking cry came from outside. Cries like that already rang several times before. That made Liu Mang frown. He said to the 2 people, "Go take a look. Tell them it's about time to stop so it doesn't ruin my mood." Hearing Liu Mang's orders, although the 2 of them were unwilling to, they had to turn around and go downstairs to stop the Liu Alliance members who continued to beat up those invaders. But just as they entered the hall, they heard a huge boom. The big door of the residence was broken open and a body also flew in. This is the person who flew into the main hall had a bloody face, and they were unable to figure out who that person was. But on his clothes there was a Liu character written on it, so it was obviously their own alliance members. Damn! As they saw their own people being beaten up like that, the 2 of them instantly got angry. Although Liu Mang was the boss of the Liu Alliance, in reality, they were the strongest in the alliance. But as they aggressively walked towards the door entrance, the scene in the courtyard even stunned the both of them. At that moment, in the spacious courtyard of the Liu Alliance members were lying everywhere. All of them were horribly mangled, and other than the ones who lost consciousness, the rest were rolling on the ground and loudly howling in pain. It was extremely harsh. Chu Feng was currently grabbing on a person's collar. Although that person was endlessly begging, he was not moved. He fiercely punched out, and with some bone-breaking sounds, that person's breastbone was shattered just like that. After a howl in pain, he fainted. Then, like a scarecrow, Chu Feng threw him up high and, with a puff, he landed someplace near. Thus, the 100 Liu Alliance members that surrounded to attack Chu Feng were all destroyed by him. but it was only a short moment passed from start to finish. That ending made the observing people yell, in surprise endlessly. How was that a young man? He was just like a real-life killing god. Guy, who are you? Suddenly, at the big doors of the residence, a yell rang out. Looking over, everyone was shocked. All of them could feel that the aura the two of them were emitting belonged to the 7th level of the spirit realm. They knew the strongest people from the Liu Alliance came out. If the ones Chu Feng were beating up were shrimp soldiers and crab generals, then he would currently be facing experts. Everyone yearned to see what would happen when Chu Feng and the two start. TN. Shrimp soldiers and crab generals equals useless troops. You will soon remember who I am. Chu Feng slowly turned around and cast his gaze, which was filled with steaming killing, intent towards the two. This guy. When they saw Chu Feng's icy face and the gaze that was full of killing intent, their bodies couldn't help but tremble, and they uncontrollably backed off one step. An unstoppable fear started to spread within their hearts. BZZ. Just at that time, Chu Feng suddenly attacked. He stepped forward and he was like an arrow shot from a bow. He instantly ran at flying speed, as if his entire body formed into a ray of lightning, and he instantly arrived in front of the two people. Before the two of them even reacted to that, they only felt some lightning movements in front of them and the rolling of chi and blood in their chest. After that, a mouthful of blood sprayed out as they fell on the floor without power. Heavens, that power belongs to a rank 4 skill. How is it possible that this guy can use a rank 4 skill? I know. He's the champion of this year's Intercourt Disciple exam, the fierce person who slaughtered the 40 fierce beasts. How is that possible? The Intercourt Disciple exam only passed for so long. How is he be able to use the rank 4 skill so quickly? Not only that, his aura is clearly at the 6th level of the spirit realm. How is it possible that he instant beat two experts of the 7th level of the spirit realm? Are rank 4 skills really that terrifying? The observing crowd instantly became a flying pot of oil. If it was said that Chu Feng battling the 100 Liu Alliance people displayed his ruthlessness, then now he was displaying his absolute power. He was an unbelievable person, someone that shook away the limits of what they could bear, and to be able to do it to this extent was truly seen as a genius, truly ignorant. How could mediocre people understand the world of geniuses? Sume shot a glance at the crowd who had faces of shock, then shot it back at Chu Feng. Only then did she discover that Chu Feng disappeared within the main hall of the residence. Damn it, this guy is going to get into huge trouble. Seeing that, Su Mei's body leaped and rushed towards the residence. Darlings, you've been waiting, right? I'll keep you company right now. Back in that room, Liu Mang already took off all his clothes and revealed his incomparably nasty body. His shining eyes looked at Chu Iwei and Chu Shue who were on the bed. He shamelessly licked his lips, excitedly rubbed his hands, and as he was talking, he was going to throw himself onto the two of them. Asterisk bang asterisk, but just at that time, a heavy noise resonated. Looking over to the source of the sound, Liu Mang's face changed greatly and his eyeballs almost fell out from fear, because the frames of the room's door came out, and at that instant it was flying towards him. At that speed, it was not something he could dodge. Asterisk boom asterisk ah, with a boom, the door frame fiercely crashed onto Liu Mang's body and shattered the frame. Liu Mang crashed into the corner of the room while having fuzzy eyes and a dizzy head. His body was full of wood shavings and it was not a light smash. As he slowly recovered, he discovered with shock that there was another person in the room. That person was standing right in front of him while glaring. Although it was only a young man, his entire body was emitting an aura that terrified him, especially those pair of eyes. It was as if it was filled with the shine of blood and he looked like a devil. You, who are you? That completely broke Liu Mang from fear. He kept on backing away, but he was already at the corner of the wall's end. There was no more paths of retreat. Asterisk whoosh asterisk Chu Feng said nothing and directly attacked. His hand was like the claw of an eagle. It went straight down at Liu Mang's lower part and grabbed onto Liu Mang's groin. "Speak. How many girls have you wasted with this thing here?" Chu Feng suddenly smiled, but his smile was very strange. Before Liu Mang was able to react to that, he saw Chu Feng smiling. He even thought that his chance came, and he instantly changed his manner and loudly yelled, "Why are you asking this? Do you not know who I am? If you touch me, then I'll get you killed. I'm not doing anything, but it's just from today on. Perhaps you can reflect on the girls that you've ruined before." After saying that, Chu Feng's hand suddenly clenched. Chu Feng stopped. Just at that time, Sume rushed in. She saw Chu Feng's movements and yelled at him to stop. But it was too late. Two sounds of air escaping sounded out and blood splattered everywhere from Chu Feng's hands. "Ah, tilde tilde tilde," that Liu Mang howled like a pig dying. Both of his hands were covering that area as he rolled back and forth on the ground. But the pain was unbearable and he quickly fainted. "Chu Feng, you've stirred up a disaster." Seeing that scene, even Su Mei was not able to stay calm. "Disaster? He dared to touch my family, so he's the one who stirred up a disaster. He should be lucky that he didn't touch Chu Iwei, or else I wouldn't have only broke his genitals, I would have taken his life." Chu Feng coldly snorted and quickly walked towards Chu Iwei and Chu Shwei. Sobbed tilde tilde tilde. When Chu Feng untied Chu Iwei and Chu Shwei's ropes, the both of them threw themselves into Chu Feng's embrace and sobbed without sound. If Chu Feng did not arrive fast, the purity of those two really would have been ruined by Liu Mang. After that, Chu Feng left with the Chu family. That event instantly stirred up the inner court. The crowd that gathered around the Liu alliance also got larger and larger. Everyone knew a young man fought against the 100 Liu alliance members and stamped over the Liu alliance, which did nothing but evil all by himself. That young man was called Chu Feng. Everyone also knew that the name Chu Feng was going to be spread all across the inner court. But people did not know whether Chu Feng could live past tomorrow or not. Not only did Chu Feng stamp over the Liu alliance, he even broke Liu Mang and cut off the Liu family line. Facing that kind of thing, as Liu Mang's grandfather, how could he look on the side and not care? An arrival of a disaster was destined for Chu Feng. Indeed, after Liu Mang got wasted for not long, the residence in which Chu Feng was at got surrounded by people. But those were not simple disciples. They were the inner court elders. All of them were experts of the origin realm, and they were people from the punishment department. Facing those elders, Chu Feng had no power to resist, so he could only obediently let them take him away. Finished. Chu Feng's finished. That Liu Chenjin will certainly take Chu Feng's life. Ah, what a shame. A genius like him should have a great future just as he enters the inner court, but he provoked a person that he should not have provoked. At that instant, there were a lot of people gathered outside of Chu Feng's residence. Those people tailed Chu Feng and followed him. After seeing Chu Feng being brought away by the punishment department, everyone felt pity for Chu Feng. But they did not notice Su Mei, who was lingering nearby. At the instant that the elders showed up, she turned around and left. There were many places in which the elders managed. Other than the martial skill building, punishment department, mission selection location, there was also a very important place. It was the elders' building. In the elders' building, there were thousands of elders there, and it was the area where the elders gathered the most. Su Ro was the manager there. "What? You said Chu Feng destroyed Liu Mang's genitals in a certain hall in the elders' building." After listening to Su Mei's narration, Su Ro's beautiful face was filled with shock. "That's right. You need to help Chu Feng, or else he will not be in a good situation." Su Mei begged and said, "Not in a good situation. With Liu Chenjin's methods, to be able to let him die happily would already be good luck. Chu Feng is way too rash. I cannot help him." Su Ro sighed and said regretfully, "Are you just going to watch as a genius like Chu Feng get killed like that? You know how many benefits our Su family will get if we can rope him in." Su Mei was a bit panicky. Chu Feng is indeed a genius, and if he was developed well he would indeed be helpful for our Su family, but he still isn't worth it for me to be hostile towards Liu Chenjun. Su Rou shook her head. But he's a person that has the spirit power. How long have our Su family searched for a person like him? Is he still not worth it for you to help him out? Su Mei said emotionally. What did you say? Say it again. Hearing those words, Su Rou's expression instantly changed greatly. I said, is he still not worth it for you to help him out? No, the previous sentence. He's a person that has spirit power. Sister, is that the truth? Chu Feng has the spirit power. How did you know? At that instant, Su Rou excitedly grabbed Su Mei's shoulders and loudly questioned. I personally saw it. Did you not know about it? Su Mei was stunned by Su Rou's sudden change. You saw it. When did you see it? Seeing that Su Rou really did not seem to know that Chu Feng had the spirit power, Su Mei narrated everything in detail that happened in the spiritual medicine hunt to Su Rou. If what you said was the truth, then this Chu Feng really does seem to have the spirit power. Su Rou slowly closed her eyes and deeply took a breath. After that chest, that was worth of being prideful of rose up and down. Once she calmly said, this Chu Feng must be saved. The punishment department was an area that punished disciples that wronged and also an area that imprisoned criminals. The people that were locked in here were not necessarily all people from the Azure Dragon Alliance, but those who did get locked in here could not escape the pain of punishment. At that instant, in an iron prison in the most strict area in the punishment department, both of Chu Feng's hands were locked by iron chains and he was hung in midair. In front of him were a dozen or so elders. The head of them was an old man who had white hair and a goatee. The old man's sword-like eyebrows were upside down and his beard exploded. With a single glance, one could tell that he was a fierce character. He was the manager of the punishment department, Liu Mang's grandfather Liu Chenjun. At that moment, Liu Chenjun had both his eyes closed. He asked in a heavy voice, can Manger's injuries be healed? Sir, young Master Mang's injuries are already stable, but I'm afraid that that part cannot be recovered. Trash. Liu Chenjun suddenly stood up and the chair he was sitting on instantly shook and shattered. He pointed at the elder who was next to him and said, no matter what the price is, Manger's injuries must be healed. Yes, 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 I will do my best. That elder kept on backing away in fear. Then he turned around and left. At that instant, Liu Chenjun finally cast his vengeful gaze towards Chu Feng and fiercely said, cut off this brat's genitals, dig out his eyes, cut off his ears, nose, tongue, and chop off his 4 limbs. Yes, sir. Just as Liu Chenjun's words fell, the elders behind him held all sorts of equipments and slowly walked towards Chu Feng. Sinister expressions were hung on their faces as if they were going to chop Chu Feng into 8 pieces. In reality, they were indeed preparing to do that. Asterisk rumble asterisk just at that time, the iron prison's thick iron door shattered. At the same time, a beautiful figure also appeared in front of the door. Su Rou was wearing a white dress at that instant. With that clothing and her fox-like face, it was obviously different than the crowd, and there was a type of manner that seemed different from the convention. But when Su Rou appeared, the expressions of the elders became more serious. The iron prison was already tightly guarded. Other than the people from the punishment department, no other people could enter. Su Rou's current actions were just like breaking in. Elder Su Rou, now this is a rare guest. I wonder what business you have in my punishment department. Although Su Rou arrived with bad intentions, after thinking about this person's background, even Liu Chenjun had to smile while facing her. Just a small issue that I hope you can help out. Su Rou's charming smile had thousands different types of grace, and even the old people found it difficult to manage her. If you have anything, please say so. I will try my best to help out. Liu Chenjun smiled and said, I want to bring this Chu Feng away. Su Rou lightly smiled and said. With those words, not only the other people, Even the Liu Chenjin, who was full of smiles, had a great change in expression. "Su Rou, what joke is this? Do you know what Chu Feng did?" Liu Chenjin's attitude became serious. "No matter what he did today, I will bring him away." Su Rou also put away her smile. "That will not do. I will say this right now. Even if God comes, don't think of taking Chu Feng away. See her out." Liu Chenjin waved his big sleeve, turned around and didn't pay attention to Su Rou anymore. "Elder Su Rou, please." Seeing that, several elders forcefully smiled and walked towards Su Rou, wanting to bring her away. But before even getting close, a formless pressure shot out from Su Rou's body. That pressure was strong and it swirled like a whirlpool. Instantly, it filled the entire iron prison. Almost at the same time when the pressure was emitted, a dozen or so elders fell on the ground and mouthfuls of blood sprayed out from their mouths. Only Liu Chenjin could continue standing. At that instant, around Su Rou, a whirlwind was spinning around and that jet-black long hair was flying up and down. The snow-white long dress shook left and right as if a fairy was landing, but her gaze was abnormally icy cold. "I will also say this right now. You will release Chu Feng whether you are willing or not. Su Rou, do not push your luck." Seeing that, Liu Chenjin also got angry. The same strong pressure exploded out and engulfed the iron prison. Asterisk rumble rumble asterisk. At that moment, Chu Feng could hear the ear-piercing rumbling coming from all directions. He could also see that the sturdy iron prison was violently shaking as if unable to resist against the pressure coming from the two of them. Under the pressure, even the origin realm elders on the ground hugged their head while yelling as it was hard to endure. But Chu Feng was completely fine. There was a warm aura around him that was defending him against a strong one. It was obvious that Su Rou's pressure was protecting him. "Liu Chenjin, it's not like I'm looking down on you, but you are still not suited to oppose me." Suddenly, Su Rou stepped forward once. Just as her feet touched the ground, a deep crack slowly extended out like a moving snake. It rapidly surged forward on the ground and went towards Liu Chenjin. Asterisk boom asterisk ah. When the crack arrived in front of Liu Chenjin, he instantly flew away and fiercely crashed into the iron walls. As he landed, his mouth opened and a mouthful of his old blood sprayed out. You actually reached this stage. With that strength, why are you still staying in the inner court as an elder?" Liu Chenjin stared at Su Rou blankly with his eyes filled with fear, because Su Rou's strength exceeded far beyond his imagination. "There are things that shouldn't be asked." Su Rou disdainfully shot Liu Chenjin a glance and waved in the air with her hands. With some bangs and clanks, Chu Feng's iron chains on his hands were cut. With that, Chu Feng also regained his freedom and stably landed on the floor. Although Chu Feng didn't know why Su Rou came and saved him, he still quickly ran next to her. He knew at this time and instant, only being next to this person would he be in the safest position. Chu Feng looked at the crack on the ground and couldn't help but inhale a breath of cool air. The entire iron prison was created with the heavy and thick iron. To be able to create a crack with one step on this iron, it showed how unreasonable Su Rou's strength was. Chu Feng was not too injured, and Su Rou also shot a sweet smile at Chu Feng. She grabbed Chu Feng's hands and pulled him outside. Looking closely, Chu Feng discovered that Su Rou was quite pretty. Although Su Mei's face was no worse than Su Rou's, she was still a bit young and she was still a bit underripe. But Su Rou was different. She had none of that and her entire body was emitting that mature charm. Even the fragrance of her body was especially enchanting. But just as Chu Feng sunk within that attracting fragrance, Su Rou suddenly stopped, looked back, and said with an extremely cold tone to Liu Chenjin, "Don't even think about hiddenly attacking Chu Feng or harming his Chu family. Or else, it wouldn't be as easy as your grandson being injured. I will erase your entire Liu family from the Azure province." "Su Rou, don't pressure me. If you pressure me past a point, no one will benefit from this," Liu Chenjin angrily bellowed. "Oh, If you feel you can go ahead and try. I will accompany you. Anytime. Su Rou suddenly smiled, but her smile was extremely cold. She didn't speak any more rubbish to Liu Chenjin and walked out, the iron prison with Chu Feng. After Su Rou walked out, Liu Chenjin was like a ball that had no air and weakly limped on the ground with a blank expression. After a while, he bitterly smiled, and his old tears started falling. He knew that he was only exaggerating just now because, comparing the backgrounds of his Liu family and the Su family, it was really like a small wizard against a great one, not even worth mentioning. Today, he could only swallow his unpleasant breath back into his stomach. He was fated to have no more chances because he did not want his entire family to be exterminated. In a hall in the Elders' building, Su Rou was busy making tea. Chu Feng was sitting on a stool with one leg over the other as he hiddenly stared at Su Rou's well-developed twin peaks and her smooth and round bottom. Looking down the dress and landing on those snow-white, long, and beautiful legs, a wave of evil fire couldn't help but be created under his stomach. This is quite the woman. Chu Feng hiddenly sighed in his heart. The person who could enjoy such a beautiful body would have such rare good luck. With such a spicy figure, if it was possible to strip naked and reveal her perfect snow-white skin, Chu Feng only need to think about it to feel lucky. But he could only think because he knew that Su Rou was not a simple person, not to mention that she was the goddess in the hearts of countless inner court disciples. Even core disciples and elders declared their feelings to Su Rou while crazily chasing after her. But up until today, no one got their hands on her. So this woman was not a person that would yield and be enjoyed on by normal people. Here, drink a cup of tea to keep the fear down. Su Rou gave a cup of good-smelling tea to Chu Feng. Thank you, Elder Su Rou, I am indeed quite thirsty. Chu Feng accepted the tea and poured it all into his mouth. He even wished for more as he asked, do you have any more? I do. Su Rou continuously poured a few more cups for Chu Feng, and he always finished it with one gulp. After finishing the entire pot of tea, he wiped his mouth with satisfaction. While he wiped his mouth, he even burped. Seeing Chu Feng act like that, Su Rou was surprised. How is this guy even scared? He is clearly only thirsty. To think that a young man at such an age would be so fearless towards such a threatening situation, that kind of courage, insight, and wisdom really made her see him in another light. The more she thought, the more she felt that she saved the right person today. Elder Su Rou, thank you for your help today, or else I'm afraid that my little life really would have been ended. Chu Feng stood up and sincerely thanked, but he also guessed that Su Rou saved him because she wanted to rope him in. But after all, she did save him. If he did not give his gratitude, then that would simply be deceiving himself. No need for thanks. In this situation, Liu Mang wronged first, and as an elder in the Azure Dragon School, it's normal for me to protect you. In any case, you are still such a rare and excellent disciple. Su Rou sweetly smiled, and after that she extended her hand towards Chu Feng. Since you already know the 3 thunder styles, then hand it back. A martial skill like that cannot be spread outside. Elder Su Rou, I'll be honest. Within the 3 thunder styles, I can only use 2 of them, and I haven't understood the third one yet. Chu Feng took the 3 thunder styles out, but he was a bit reluctant to part with it. Su Rou took the 3 thunder styles, then smiled and said to Chu Feng, I won't hide this. Other than the founder of this school, no one truly understood the 3rd style, so if you mastered the first 2, then it's fine. Oh, hearing Su Rou's words, Chu Feng was hiddenly happy, because faintly he felt that there was some crucial point in the 3rd style that he didn't completely understand yet. But Chu Feng also felt that one day he could completely understand it. At that time, wouldn't he be the only other person to know the 3rd style other than the Azure Dragon founder? After that, Su Rou chatted a bit with Chu Feng, but those were only the concerns of an elder towards a disciple, and she did not mention anything about roping Chu Feng. After leaving the elder's building, Chu Feng had an evaluation in his heart. Although Su Ro seemed a lot more gentler than Su Mei, her thinking was a lot deeper than Su Mei. "Oi, you finally came out." Just as Chu Feng walked out of the large door of the elder's building, he heard a sweet voice. Looking over, he saw a butterfly-like figure coming near him. It was Su Ro's younger sister, Su Mei. "Thanks to you this time." Chu Feng smiled. He knew the reason why Su Ro helped him was most likely because of this girl. At least it was her. That informed Su Ro. "Oh, I couldn't tell, but you seem to still have a heart. But if you're going to give me gratitude, you can't only use your mouth, right? Shouldn't you express it a more materialistically? You want me to kiss you? Leave. You want me to hug you? Leave right now. Fine, I'll take a deficit and I'll marry you. Instantly leave right now." Su Mei's little face was red from anger. Although she knew that Chu Feng was shameless, she never would have thought that he was that shameless. So she didn't pay attention to him anymore and turned around to leave. Seeing Su Mei pouting and leaving, Chu Feng laughed. Although he didn't dare to tease Su Ro, he dared to tease this little girl. But after a bit of laughter, Chu Feng still caught up and said while smiling, "How about I join the Wings Alliance?" "Really?" Hearing those words, Su Mei instantly stopped walking. A pair of shiny eyes were staring at Chu Feng while flickering. "Of course, I owe you sisters a favor which I will return sooner or later. This doesn't count as repaying you, it's just to satisfy your small little wish." Chu Feng's words came from his heart. Although Su Mei saw his potential, currently he was nothing. If it wasn't for them saving him, he wouldn't even have his life. One must know favors and return them. Chu Feng was that kind of person. At first, when he refused the dragon and tiger brothers, he was worried about exposing his innate gift, but now it was already exposed. He refused today because he didn't like how Su Mei was threatening him. But right now, with his strength, he still had no way to protect Chu Iwei and his family in the inner court. So, he felt that entering the Wings Alliance right now had hundreds of benefits and no harm. It would greatly help his Chu family's development as well. Also, very faintly, Chu Feng could feel that Su Mei and Su Ro's background were not simple, and the so-called Su family would not be simple as well. A family that had the mysterious techniques would absolutely not be a normal power. It would be at least comparable to the Azure Dragon School. So, he felt that the reason why Su Ro and Su Mei went to the Azure Dragon School was to find a person who had strength in which they could rope them to their own family. Just like that Liu Chenjin who asked Su Ro, why did she stay in the inner court when she had that kind of strength? Why not become a core elder? That was because core disciples would not easily be roped in by other people. But most of the inner court disciples were new people. They were easy to attract and even easier to rope in. At the end, those sisters were developing their family's power. Chu Feng also decided to join in their family. TN. Clan may have been a better word of choice here, but I just kept it as family for consistency, so you still have a bit of conscience. Hearing that Chu Feng really did agree, Su Mei sweetly smiled and said to Chu Feng, "There just happens to be a mission for our Wings Alliance tomorrow. You join as well." "Mission? What mission needs so many people to participate?" Chu Feng expressed confusion. Looking at the quality of the Wings Alliance members, every one of them had the power to finish a high-difficulty mission all by themselves. Why would they need him to join as well? You think it's going to be a trash mission like those at the mission selection location? I'll tell you this. The Wings Alliance will never do those missions. The missions that we do are no easier than the ones that the core disciples do, so you better prepare yourself. Also, the reward for this mission is also very generous. It's because no one is giving the mission to us, it's that we're taking everything from the mission. Su Mei said seriously, "Damn, we're not doing a group robbery, are we?" Chu Feng smiled and said, "Idiot, tomorrow noon come here and find me. Also, don't wear the clothing of the Azure Dragon School." Su Mei gave a paper slip and a badge to Chu Feng. The slip stated the location to meet tomorrow, and the badge was the symbol of the Wings Alliance. Also, will the Sword Alliance not find my family for trouble? Chu Feng was not worried about himself. It was only worried about Chu Iwei and the others. That may not be so. The Sword Alliance is not a trash alliance like the Liu Alliance who only rely on their background. They do indeed have a certain amount of strength. But if they dare to look for trouble, my Wings Alliance will tell them who's the boss alliance in the inner court. After saying all that, Sume bounced away and left. It could be seen that her mood was pretty good. What sort of strength does the Wings Alliance have? Chu Feng looked, and the badge in his hand and his heart couldn't help but have a trace of rippling. He could tell from Su Mei's words from before, the Wings Alliance did not put the Sword Alliance in their eyes. It showed that the Wings Alliance was really not simple. After that, Chu Feng put on the Wings Alliance badge. He intentionally walked around the inner court. As for the reason, it was to know that he was a member of the Wings Alliance and telling the Sword Alliance to not attack his family. Look, isn't that Chu Feng? The Chu Feng that stamped over the Liu Alliance and wasted Liu Meng. That's him without a doubt. At that time I was on scene so I wouldn't recognize him wrong. But wasn't he taken away by the punishment department? How can he appear here safe and sound? Also, look at his chest. Isn't that the Wings Alliance badge? He already joined the Wings Alliance. At first he refused the invitation of the Wings Alliance, but now he was still able to join in. He even escaped the punishment of the punishment department. How deep does the background of this Chu Feng go? No wonder, no wonder, no wonder he dared to do such things to Liu Meng. It seems that this Chu Feng isn't as simple as he seems on the surface. Do not offend this person in the future, everyone. Chu Feng walked around and those who knew him endlessly yelled in surprise. Other than sighing at Chu Feng's strength, they had to ponder at the power behind Chu Feng. After walking around for a long time, Chu Feng also met quite a few people from the Sword Alliance, but none of them attacked him. So it really showed that the status of being in the Wings Alliance came into use. When Chu Feng returned back to his own residence, he discovered that the residence was still lit up. There were a few people moving around in front of the door, and from their auras he knew that it was Chu Wei and the others. Chu Wei, what are you doing here? He saw Chu Wei and the others, and they were wrapped with gauzes, as they were battered and bruised. They were not resting in their own residences, and they were lingering around here instead. Chu Feng did not understand why. Chu Feng, you finally returned. This is great. If you're fine, then it's great. Chu Feng, quickly come in. Everyone's waiting for you. Seeing Chu Feng, Chu Wei and the others breathed a sigh of relief, as if releasing a burden. They did not say much, and they dragged Chu Feng into the residence with smiles. After opening the doors of the residence, Chu Feng saw that Chu Iwei, Chu Shwei and the others were all there. Even the other members from the Chu Alliance arrived. In the middle of the hall there was a huge table. On top of it were many delicious foods, and most of them were his favorites. After that, Chu Feng found about that after he got taken away, Chu Iwei and the others went to the elders' building. They were trying to beg for help for Chu Feng, but they almost got detained themselves. Luckily, Su Ro arrived and helped them out. She even told them to prepare delicious foods and wait for Chu Feng at his residence. Chu Feng would return safely, without a doubt. This meal was not the first time Chu Feng ate with his family, but it was the first time that he felt the comfort of a family. Everyone's feelings towards him were all from their hearts. It was all sincere. Many people were grateful towards Chu Feng, and Chu Feng really liked that sincere treatment. The morning on the next day, Chu Feng woke up early and he took out all the mission plates that he got yesterday. Since he was going out for a mission with Su Mei and the others, the mission plates did not have much use for him, so he was preparing to put them back. But just as he walked out, Chu Feng saw a figure. It was Duan Yuxuan that fought over the mission plates with him. At that instant, Chu Feng couldn't help but be happy. In his heart, he pointed at Duan Yuxuan and yelled out loud, "Oi, you there, stop!" Hearing that yell, Duan Yuxuan's body couldn't help but tremble. As he turned his head and looked, his face was even more pale. The things about Chu Feng already spread throughout the inner court. Naturally, Duan Yuxian would know about it as well, so he was extremely terrified towards Chu Feng, especially when he thought about the things yesterday. He was disrespectful towards Chu Feng, so he was afraid that Chu Feng would find him and look for trouble. Because of that, he did not sleep last night, and his lingering fear lingered endlessly. Now, seeing Chu Feng, even his feet were limp. Facing a person that even dared to destroy Liu Mang's eggs, he did not know what Chu Feng would do to him. Just as Chu Feng walked in front of Duan Yuxian, he kneeled on the floor with a poof and begged with a painful face, "Boss Chu Feng, I did not recognize you yesterday, so I provoked you. I beg that you forget about me and forgive me this time." "What? You're talking about that?" Chu Feng was speechless. After that, he gave his bag to Duan Yuxian and said while smiling, "Duan bro, if you don't mind, help me return these back to the mission selection location." You called me for this." Duan Yuxian awkwardly took the bag and he was a bit at a loss. "Actually, the thing I wanted to tell you was that the mission that you liked is in here. Sorry to trouble you." Chu Feng patted Duan Yuxian's shoulders and ran towards his mission gathering spot, looking at the Chu Feng that disappeared in an instant, and also looking at the crowd that surrounded him, who used a strange gaze as they stared at him. Duan Yuxian hiddenly cursed, "Damn, this is so embarrassing." Heading towards Su Mei's meeting point, after Chu Feng left the Azure Dragon School, he changed into a set of casual clothes and went to an abandoned temple before noon arrived. Before entering the temple, Chu Feng used his spirit power and he felt that there were 7 people inside. After entering the temple, there were indeed 7 males and females. Within the 7, he saw 3 familiar faces. One was Su Mei, the other 2 were the Dragon and Tiger brothers, but Chu Feng did not recognize the other 4. Although he could not confirm their strength, he could tell by their faces that the 4 people were not ordinary people. A male and female were showing their affection as if there was no one around. It was like they were afraid that other people would not know that they were in a relationship. But the thing worth mentioning was that male wore a pink long gown. On his head there were even peach flowers and he was just like a pervert. On the other hand, the female wore quite masculine clothing, but her face was still like a female's. Although it wasn't as beautiful as Su Mei, she could still be counted as good quality. Other than the lovers, there was a young man wearing white clothing. His face was handsome with thick eyebrows and big eyes. After seeing Chu Feng, he lightly smiled and nodded. He seemed rather friendly. On the other hand, there was a blue-clothed male, and he was the complete opposite. After seeing Chu Feng, he looked at him with disdain and coldly snorted. After that, his mouth curled upwards as if he had some deep hatred towards Chu Feng. "Come, come, come. Let me give you an introduction. This is the newest member of our Wings Alliance, Chu Feng. He may seem young, but he is no simple person." Su Mei smiled and started the introductions. "Is he any younger than you?" Su Mei, the white-clothed male, walked over and politely clasped his hands towards Chu Feng. "I am Bai Tong. I have heard of you before, and seeing you today, you are really no ordinary person." "Thanks." Chu Feng also clasped his hands in reply. To those who treat him with courtesy, he would always treat them back with courtesy. The young man who wore a gown with peach flowers and the young female that wore a masculine clothing also walked over. That male said extremely solemnly, "I am Yi Taozi. This is my future wife, Zhang Tingzi." Tien, Tao Peach Ting. Graceful Chu Feng also smiled and clasped his hands towards the 2 of them. But he said in his heart, "Damn, Yi Taozi, Zhang Tingzi, these 2 really are made for each other. Just with that name they are a perfect match." "Chu Feng, we welcome you to the big family of the Wings Alliance. We hope that you don't put the previous things before in your heart, because the both of us were actually." The Dragon and Tiger brothers walked over and hiddenly looked at Su Mei as they spoke. Cough, cough. Seeing that, Su Mei quickly coughed 2 times and viciously glanced at the 2 of them. Instantly, they put away the words that they were going to say from fear. The Chu Feng that had the strong spirit power already saw the inklings. He guessed that it must have been Su Mei that forced the dragon and tiger brothers to do something. Chu Feng, you have quite some nerves. The Wings Alliance kindly invited you and you dared to refuse. Do you have any virtues or abilities? Just at that time the cold-faced, blue-clothed young man spoke. Jia Yunfeng, you shut up. Seeing that, Su Mei was going to show her true stripes. Su Mei let him finish. But Chu Feng pulled Su Mei behind him, smiled, stared at Jia Yunfeng, then said, "What do you want to say? Spit it out." "I'm saying that you are not worthy to join the Wings Alliance." Jia Yunfeng bellowed. Whoosh Chu Feng's expression changed, and he suddenly moved his hands. One illusionary palm came out and patted towards Jian Yunfeng's chest. At that instant, everyone was shocked. No one would have thought that the kind-faced Chu Feng would attack without any signs. Illusionary palm. Jia Yunfeng was no ordinary person. He instantly recognized the skill that Chu Feng used. The aura of the 7th level of the spirit realm started to revolve. He turned his hand and punched out. A wave of boundless power exploded from it. The skill that he used was a rank 4 skill. Seeing that, although Chu Feng was a bit surprised, he was not afraid at all. He changed his skill and used the first thunder style. With a blink, he arrived behind Jia Yunfeng. Following that was another illusionary palm, and it went towards his back and attacked. Bang, that palm stuck without any accidents. Jia Yunfeng could not defend, and he face-planted on the floor. After fiercely lying on the floor, he fled a few meters before stopping. This guy has really strong methods. Seeing that, all the people on scene, other than Su Mei, were all shocked with. Their eyes lit up, especially the dragon and tiger brothers. They were even shocked to the point of opening their mouths. The Chu Feng in their memories was a very weak person, or at least weak in front of them too. But now they discovered that they could not be any more wrong. If Jia Yunfeng was not Chu Feng's opponent, then the brothers would not be able to beat him even more. This clearly showed that Chu Feng hid his strength before. In the exchange before, he was obviously letting the two have their ways. At that instant, the two of them knew why Su Ro and Elder Aoyang recommended Chu Feng to join the Wings Alliance at all costs. It was because Chu Feng really did have the qualifications. "Do you know whether I am worthy or not now?" Chu Feng coldly smiled and said while looking at the Jia Yunfeng who was climbing up from the ground, "You bastard." Just as Jia Yunfeng rose, he suddenly angrily yelled and leaped towards Chu Feng once again. Whoosh but just at that time Bai Tong's body flashed and instantly appeared in front of Jia Yunfeng. As he blocked, he said in a heavy voice, "Just now, Chu Feng already left some face for you. Don't look for unhappiness." Jia Yunfeng was obviously a bit afraid of Bai Tong. After thinking of Chu Feng's attack before, he also coldly snorted and said no more. 8th level of the spirit realm. As for Chu Feng, he hiddenly sighed in surprise. He could feel Bai Tong's aura from before. He was the same as Su Mei, also being in the 8th level. "Okay, this is called you want know each other without fighting. Time is tight, so let's hurry up and go." At that time, Yi Taozi spoke. Under his call, several people started walking out from the temple. Su Mei walked in front of Chu Feng and said while smiling, "You are quite overbearing. They didn't even say anything yet you directly attack him." He asked for it. Chu Feng curled his lips. "Fine, actually I like your temper when it's like this." Su Mei sweetly smiled and pulled out a book from her waist purse, then gave it to Chu Feng. "What is this?" Chu Feng received it and found out that the book was quite old. The shabby pages were quickly breaking, but when Chu Feng saw the words on the book, his eyes lit up. Written on it was, "Beginning level mysterious technique, breathing technique." It's actually a mysterious technique, this. Quiet. Hearing that, Su Mei immediately used her hands to cover Chu Feng's mouth. She nervously looked outside the temple and was afraid that the people outside would hear them. "Su Mei, this is nothing. I promised you yesterday if you joined the Wings Alliance, I would give you the mysterious techniques to cultivate in. am just fulfilling my promise," Su Mei said indifferently. With those words, it made Chu Feng feel very uncomfortable. Yesterday, the sisters helped him, so Chu Feng already owed them a huge favor. He did not need to use the mysterious techniques as the price, but Su Mei did not bother about those things, and it made him feel very apologetic, so he said quietly, "Thanks." "What thanks? Hurry up and put it away. Don't let them see it. Also, do not give it another person to cultivate, or else I will split your skin apart." Su Mei fiercely waved her little fist in front of Chu Feng, then ran out while jumping and bouncing. Seeing the cute, beautiful, and sincere girl, Chu Feng's impression towards Su Mei got several times better. Chu Feng and the group kept on walking towards the west. After 2 days and 2 nights on horses, they already left the borders of the Azure Dragon School, and they were obviously not doing a school mission. "Su Mei, what are we actually doing? Aren't we wasting too much time by going so far?" Chu Feng asked quietly. He felt that for one mission, if they needed to spend so much time on the road, it was a waste of time. "I'll secretly tell you, we are going to rob a tomb." Su Mei happily smiled and said, "Robbing a tomb, really? That's quite lacking in ethics." Chu Feng's face was full of disdain. "What do you know? This is a tomb of an expert in the profound realm. Not only are large amounts of spiritual medicines hidden in there, there are even origin medicines and even profound medicines. Other than that, there will also be a lot of mysterious techniques. It is simply like a huge treasure vault. If you feel that these actions lack ethics, then you cannot come." Su Mei coldly snorted and said, "It's the tomb of a profound realm expert, origin medicine, profound medicine, mysterious techniques." Chu Feng was astonished. On the road of martial cultivation, the known realms were spirit realm, origin realm, profound realm, and heaven realm. If the origin realm was reachable with decent aptitude, the profound realm could only be reached by geniuses that had extremely good talent. According to what he knew, the current master of the Azure Dragon School was only in the profound realm. It was a realm that only the strongest in the Azure province could reach. As for the heaven realm, it was a realm that made people walk on air or travel tens of thousands of miles in a day. It simply broke the bindings of the heavens and earth, exceeded the limits of humans, and it was a realm like the legends. The experts of the heaven realm did not appear in the Azure province yet. However, Chu Feng had heard before that the overlord of the 9 provinces within the Jiang dynasty, there were indeed people in the heaven realm. When the Jiang dynasty situated itself in the 9 provinces, although it didn't interfere with any developments of any powers, it was still publicly recognized as the overlord of the 9 provinces. So, all sorts of powers in the 9 provinces must pay their respects every year at a certain time, or else their entire family would be exterminated. The Jiang dynasty claimed itself as the imperial family, and they were not ordinary lives. Not everyone had a chance to interact with them. For example, in the Azure province, only the top school in the Azure province, the Lingyan School, were qualified to pay their respects. As for the tributes, all the schools would give their tributes to the Lingyan School, and the Lingyan School would give their tributes to the imperial court. So to Chu Feng, the Jiang dynasty was just like a legend, and he had no way of getting close. Actually, he hadn't even seen any experts from the profound realm. The so-called origin medicine and the profound medicine were similar to the spiritual medicine. Just as the cultivators in the spirit realm used the spiritual medicine, the cultivators in the origin realm used the origin medicine, and the profound realm to the profound medicine. Compared to spiritual medicine, the origin and profound medicine were a lot rarer and a lot more precious. Especially if one could get a single profound medicine, they could be extremely wealthy. Today there was such a good thing sent right to his doorstep, so naturally Chu Feng would be extremely excited. But he was also suspicious. When would it even be their turn to rob that kind of place? Su Mei, in a tomb of a profound realm. Expert, we should not be able to lead it with our strength, right? Chu Feng was a bit worried. What are you thinking? Do you really think that we're the only ones that got the news? When a tomb of a profound realm expert becomes known, it undoubtedly attracts all sorts of attentions from all sorts of powers. There will be many experts that go up and lead. As for us, we're just there for the liveliness. We get some of the leftovers and don't even think about those profound or origin medicines. We can already earn a lot with even a few spiritual beads. Su Mei explained. So it's like that. Where's the tomb then? Chu Feng continued to ask. I hear that it's in the desert wilderness. As for the specifics, no one knows. For according to our sources, the tomb will be announced in the ancient city near the wilderness. Of course, the so-called announced isn't publicly announcing to everyone. The person who announces it will sell the map of the tomb. Every sheet will be 80 Saint Spirit grasses. Each one of us will give out 10, and it's just right for 80. Su Mei continued, explaining, that expensive, I don't have any. Didn't you take a lot from me last time? I finished them off. What a pig, you're so wasteful. Did you absorb it all? That's... Chu Feng was a bit speechless. He couldn't tell Su Mei that, although I didn't train in any mysterious techniques, I have a godly lighting in my body. No matter how many spiritual medicines I get, I can refine them all. Not only do I not waste any, I can absorb them 100%. Whatever, I'll help you out this time, but remember to return it back to me at a later date. As she saw Chu Feng, who was crying from poverty, Su Mei curled her lips helplessly. I thank you. Chu Feng smiled and said, the tomb of an expert of the profound realm. He looked forward to it. The group continued forward, and before noon they entered the desert wilderness and quickly arrived at that ancient city. The ancient city was extremely ancient. According to legends, it had thousands of years of history. Every brick and tile were very worn out, as if it would collapse and shatter with a little bump. So, this is the ancient city. It seems a bit too damaged, and it seems that it will collapse soon, right? How are there so many people living in such a broken place? Looking at that damaged yet huge city, and also the faint smoke rising into the air, Chu Feng knew that there was quite a few people living in the ancient city, but he couldn't understand why so many people were living in the ancient city. An old construction like that could collapse at any moment, so it should be very dangerous. What do you know? Every single brick and tile in the ancient city has a spirit formation laid by not only gales. Even if experts of the origin stage attack at full strength, they may not be able to damage any one of the bricks or tiles. It's that strong. Chu Feng was shocked at first, but then quickly questioned, who are S? What is a spirit formation? With those words, not only did Su Mei look at him with a gaze of astonishment, even other people cast disdain expressions at him. What a bumpkin! Jia Yunfeng coldly snorted. Ah, Chu Feng, thee is a special and noble occupation. People like us cannot touch it. On the other hand, Bai Tong smiled and started to explain. S have a power called spirit formation. Spirit formation is near indestructible, and it's a very strong defending method. All S have extremely high talent. Every one of them could be said to be a genius, and they have really powerful strength. In addition to their strong observing power and the special power from the spirit formation, they are almost unrivaled in their own realm. Also, because of the specialness of every single is the target of invitation of many powers. The various powers school that will have a sky-rising upgrade for their defense. As for the Azure Dragon School, we used an extremely high price to ask for a. Oh, if it's that impressive, then why did you say that the is not something that we can touch? Chu Feng curiously asked. Because everyone can cultivate, but to become a one must have the spirit power. And this spirit power is extremely rare, so naturally ordinary people cannot touch it. That's also why S are so noble. Bai Tong continued explaining. Having spirit power, Hearing those words, Chu Feng couldn't help but cast his gaze towards Su Mei. He seemingly already knew why that girl wanted to rope him in. What are you looking at me for? Even if you have the spirit power, without it to teach you, you cannot become one in your entire life. As if she knew what Chu Feng was thinking, Sume curled her lips up. Didn't Bai Tong just say that our Azure Dragon School has a? Chu Feng chuckled and said, "You mean huge? Don't even think about that. That old guy is too strange and he never accepts disciples. In the Azure Dragon School we have a core disciple that has spirit power. He always wanted to pay his respects to Huge to learn the spirit formation technique, but after being ordered around like a slave for 1 year, he did not learn anything even up until now." Su Mei continued, "To strike blows. That is correct. It is just as how Su Mei said. The reason why S are so noble are because they are so rare. Unless it's a person that they really like, S will not easily pass down their skills. It means one more person they teach, one more person will come and fight for their livelihood." After Bai Tong explained all that, he said to Chu Feng with a tone of jest, "I see that you are very interested in this. Does that mean you have the spirit power?" To Bai Tong's words, Chu Feng stuck out his chest, raised his face, bluntly and proudly said, "I do have the spirit power." What? When Chu Feng's words came out, other than Su Mei, everyone else was shocked. Even the Bai Tong that was usually calm had no way of remaining that way. "Chu Feng, do you really have the spirit power? You cannot joke on things like this." Bai Tong's face became tight and his tone was filled with suspicion. "He is correct. He is indeed the person that cannot be found even within tens of thousands." Just at that time, Su Mei spoke. "Su Mei, is this the truth?" Hearing Su Mei's words, almost everyone widened their mouths in shock. "That's the reason why my sister so strongly insisted to invite him to join the Wings Alliance." Su Mei sighed helplessly. She knew when Chu Feng's special power was revealed, everyone would see him in a new light. At that instant, everyone couldn't help but inhale a breath of cool air. When they looked at Chu Feng again, their gazes had an extra hint of respect. Even Jia Yunfeng that disliked Chu Feng had a complicated expression on. Obviously, he was feeling regret since he disrespected Chu Feng earlier. A person that had spirit power may not even show up within 10,000 people. Even if it was 100,000 people, there may not even be one. Until today, there were only 2 people that had the spirit power within the entire Azure Dragon School. Even if Chu Feng was counted in, there were only 3. People like them had naturally high talent for cultivation. Their understanding skills were also extremely fast, and their observation skills were even more scarier. Even if they were not able to become a world spiritist, just in the cultivation side, they could have huge achievements. People like them could not be offended because before they were even born, they were destined to be unordinary. Naturally, as Jia Yunfeng treated Chu Feng like that before, he had some lingering fear. "Chu Feng, please don't take offense from my previous actions. As an apology, I'll pay for your part in buying the map for the tomb." As he thought, Jia Yunfeng actually directly apologized to Chu Feng. Although people were surprised at his sudden actions, they were understandable. If they were in his spot, they would do the same thing. Then thank you." Chu Feng gladly accepted it. 10 Saint Spirit grasses was not a small number. If there was someone willing to pay for him, naturally, Chu Feng would be willing to accept. After a bit of chatting, they finally entered the ancient city. At that instant, Chu Feng could hit and feel the strong aura of the ancient city. He could see that within the ancient city, there were many experts hidden. Chu Feng also saw even more disciples wearing their school's clothing. He recognized that they were the disciples from the Thousand Wind School. Chu Zun from the Chu family cultivated in the school. It seems that the news of this tomb really attracted quite a few people. Chu Feng sighed and said, "Of course, the news about this tomb was already leaked, and all sorts of surrounding powers rushed here. Sooner or later there will be conflicts." Su Mei secretly explained, "Are you saying that the Azure Dragon School will also send people here?" Chu Feng questioned, closely because the distance between the Azure Dragon School and the desert could be said to be close. Of course, the closest schools to this desert wilderness is the Azure Dragon School and the Thousand Wind School. If the Thousand Wind School got the news, then the Azure Dragon School would come as well. Also, with how our Azure Dragon School does things, the people that are sent will certainly be the core disciples and core elders. Perhaps that huge elder would come as well. Su Mei said. Wouldn't this become a battle between the Azure Dragon School and the Thousand Wind School? Chu Feng asked. That's why we're in casual clothes and pretending to be a passerby. This way, we can avoid the unnecessary conflicts because at times like these, taking advantage of the conflicts is the best method for us. They can open up the road and they can fight over the treasures. It would be enough as long as we get some junk. Su Mei's sweet face was full of that evil smile. So, it turned out that she already did all the preparations. Looking at the girl who was only 14 years old, Chu Feng helplessly shook his head. He could completely imagine when she grows up, her scheming would not be any worse than her elder sister, Su Ro. Because the position of the tomb was not announced, Chu Feng and the others could only temporarily wait in the ancient city for news. In a tavern, after closing the door to his room, Chu Feng was very impatient as he took out the mysterious technique book, Breathing Technique. Mysterious techniques were separated into beginning level, middle level, and high level. Although the breathing technique was only a beginning level mysterious technique, it was already worth a lot as it contained strange cultivating effects. Or else, it would not be possible for Su Mei to be so strong at her age. Even Chu Feng felt a bit of fear from that. After a bit of reading, Chu Feng understood the breathing technique a bit. The important part was to naturally breathe through the nose and to revolve the spiritual energy while breathing. The energy was to be moved in certain meridian channels in the body and at the end, running through the entire body to form power that exceeded far beyond normal people. Although it was easier said than done, it only applied to normal people. To Chu Feng, it was not hard at all. Pretty much after looking at it once, he understood the meaning in it. Chu Feng did not have such understanding power when he was born. Although Chu Feng's understanding power was extremely high before, it was obvious after getting the spirit power, his brain became more sharp. Hoo, after standing up and deeply breathing a few times, Chu Feng tried the breathing technique. Just as the energy resolved, Chu Feng felt the spiritual energy within his body was like a surging dragon that started to roar in his body. When such a strong spiritual energy went along the special meridians, Chu Feng's power instantly rose several times. This power is very strong. Clenching his fist and feeling the spiritual energy that became a lot stronger, Chu Feng felt extremely happy. The reason why Chu Feng's power was stronger than normal people was because he had the godly lighting in his body, which made the quality of his spiritual energy better than others. The power of the mysterious techniques, on the other hand, it used special methods to change the spiritual energy within the body, and it made it stronger than others. Today, Chu Feng had both of them, and his power exceeded far beyond normal people. From his estimates, currently, he may not lose if he dueled Su Mei. But Su Mei was at the 8th level of the spirit realm, and she also cultivated in the mysterious techniques before. Chu Feng was only at the 6th level of the spirit realm. With that power difference yet, if he was able to fight her, it was simply overpowered. With this, could I participate in this year's core disciple exam? After assessing his current strength, Chu Feng started to get excited. The Azure Dragon School's core disciple exam was held every year, and looking at the dates, this year's exam was getting closer. Compared to the inner court disciple exam, the core disciple exam had an age limit. That was to be under 18 years old. It didn't matter how strong you were or how much talent you were, if you passed the age limit, participation would not be allowed. From what Chu Feng knew, as long as your strength reached the 8th level of the spirit realm, you could join the core disciple exam, and there was a huge chance to pass it. Core disciples were those who the Azure Dragon School focused their development on. Even the families of the core disciples received the protection of the Azure Dragon School. As long as Chu Feng could become a core disciple, Not only would it help his cultivation, it would greatly help his Chu family's development as well. As he thought of the happy faces of Chu Yuan and the Chu family if he became a core disciple, Chu Feng greatly looked forward to become one. Asterisk thump, thump thump asterisk, but just at that time, Chu Feng's door was knocked by someone. After opening the door, Chu Feng found out that the sweet and charming Su Mei was looking at him while smiling while having both of her hands behind her back.